Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers? Fred, Scott, Ryan, James, Drew, all in the studio tonight. And Scott, you didn't shave for this show?
No.
We got a special guest. You didn't even fucking shave? Golly.
I don't shave for anybody. I don't shave for my wife.
You won't want to miss this episode, man. We got a friend of the show, Michael Telford, a.k.a. Chibs. If you follow him on Twitter, Late Round Corner, he'll be joining us here in a couple minutes. We got a lot to talk about on this week's show. The Ravens bring in some top college minds to help revamp this wide receiver core. I know a lot of people are excited about some of these names coming in.
Considering this is a similarly run offense to what we've seen in some of the colleges, kind of a smart idea when you think about it. Bring in the guys that know it best.
Right. True. Well, need some fresh perspective, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. As I said, Michael Telford from Neutral Zone Infraction, he's going to join the show to talk all things Ravens. We're going to kind of go a little bit into a few different topics that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, get some fresh perspective, stay on that kind of same note there, right? We've been talking about the same shit for a couple of weeks. We need somebody else's opinion in here, right? Something that the Twitter world values.
Yeah.
Orioles sticking around in Baltimore for 2 more years. Does that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, Scott?
For some fans, it apparently doesn't.
No. For me, it doesn't, but we're going to talk more about that too. And the Terps continue their inconsistent play, but that's got to be all turds, right, Ryan?
Oh, you've got to be all started on this.
Yeah, some people think it is. I don't understand. Turd is the reason for the inconsistent play. He's the only reason that we're winning games.
Right. That's very true. Before we do too much, though, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, just like I have many a times, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. It can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including tickets to some of our hometown teams. All right, Scott, it's time for some flock talk.
Let's jump straight into this, man. There's so much going on with the coaching staff that we've talked about.
Right.
There's so much in preparation for free agency, in preparation for the draft. I'm excited to kind of talk through some of these things,
right,
especially with our special guest.
Yeah, before we bring him in, though, there are a couple of things that I want to address before we bring him in. Like we talked about last week, the wide receiver core, that there needs to be some changes, whether that came from the coaching staff, whether that came from personnel as far as players go. But we saw some changes this week to the coaching staff, including bringing in 2 coaches, a wide receiver coach and a new pass game specialist.
Yeah, so they bring in T. Martin, who's a former QB and coordinator and QB for the Vols, right? University of Tennessee.
He actually took over for Peyton after he left. He won the damn national championship that Peyton couldn't win.
Yeah. All right.
Just saying.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying.
He was one of 6 QBs that were drafted ahead of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
How about that? Where's that gotten him?
Right.
Tom Brady's got 7 rings. He's joining the Ravens as a wide receivers coach.
He was also, I think the thing that a lot of people aren't really talking about with this guy is that he's worked with a lot of talent. He's worked with the likes of Juju, Nelson Aguilar, Marquise Lee, Robert Woods, Randall Cobb. I mean, he's worked with quite a few guys. And considering this dude was a quarterback in his college and professional career, kind of interesting to see that he's kind of developed into a wide receiver coach. But everything that I'm hearing about this guy, it's all been high praise.
Yeah, it's definitely been good news, and especially those names that you bring out. Those are somewhat recent names, right? Within the past 5 to 7 years, a lot of these guys have had an impact on teams that they played on. But they also bring in, to help with the wide receivers, they bring in a pass game specialist.
Yeah, Keith Williams, former Fresno State and Nebraska wide receiver coach. More importantly, though, he's been a personal development coach for the likes of Devontae Adams, pretty damn good wide receiver.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill, a pretty damn good wide receiver. Sammy Watkins, I mean, he's worked with some really good guys. And Devontae Adams, he was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, right? So he wasn't a highly touted, recruit coming out of high school. And this guy, Keith, put him under his wing, worked with him.
Put him to work.
And Devontae still to this day gives him a lot of credit, still works with him on a regular basis.
Well, one thing that's like common with all those names you just said, really good route running.
Yeah, exactly. He's a route running guru is what people are saying. So, again, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about these guys, but what I do know and what I'm hearing, I like. They needed some change. And if they're not going to change the offensive coordinator, or we're going to continue this run-first offense, and we're going to continue under the guidance of Greg Roman, there needed to be some changes, especially with schematics and schemes and route running.
And I forget who said it in the chat. I just happened to see it as I looked up at one point. Somebody said, these are two great hires, but Giro has to listen to these. It was Craig Zero. What's up, man? So it's one of those things. You've got these guys that are out there and they can do a lot for you, but you've got to listen to them. And I know that we were talking pre-show. You saw something about somebody from Fox Sports.
Yeah, Bruce comments. Feldman from Fox Sports actually called these two hires two of the top 4 college minds at developing wide receivers, and they would be the highest on that list. So, I mean, these guys are well respected in the college ranks. So, again, this does nothing but good, in my opinion, for the Ravens. Go ahead, Ryan.
So I just like the fact that this guy is not only in the college ranks, but he's a personal coach. These guys that have all the money in the world, all the options, can bring in anybody to make them better, believe that their money's worth spending on this man to come improve their craft. So if the best wide receivers in the world feel that way, I'm okay with it.
Could this also be an inside piece for the Ravens about how to beat the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs? Yeah. Right? You got inside information now.
Right. No, that's very true.
Where's your dedication lie? We'll see.
That's very true. And then in a smaller news with the Ravens, they did end up bringing back cornerback Devontae Harris officially. I know they've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks, and there's been some underlying tweets that kind of aligned that made you think that he was going to be coming back.
I think, like you were talking about before with him, he's just a depth piece.
Yeah. I mean, he is a depth piece. He's not going to be a starter, but I'll tell you what, he ended up having to play a pretty crucial role there before he ended up getting hurt just because of injuries, and we know how it is with injuries when it comes to DBs. I mean, every year we at least get 1, 2, 3 injuries on this roster, and you got to have those depth pieces because if you don't, it can really hamper your defense.
It definitely can.
So, without further ado, man, speaking of cornerbacks, got to bring in one of our friends of the show. Guy's been around for a long time on Twitter. He was actually on the show with us once before. He's actually, I think, one of our first video guests that we had.
He was.
We've done some collab work together.
I think he actually came after Ryan with the mattress.
That could be. They were like 1 and 2.
It was somewhere right around there.
He's the owner, the CEO, the CFO, fucking anyone that matters with neutral zone infraction. El Presidente, Michael Telford, a.k.a. Chibs. What the hell's up, man? What's going on?
Not much, boys. How you doing? It's been a while, I feel like.
It has. It's been a long time, man. How's things going around with NZI? Are you guys working on anything special? You guys got anything going on?
Yeah, actually, we're closing down.
Oh, that's big.
I know that doesn't sound like we're working on something, but so I kind of threw everything together, and I was surprised by how well everything kind of took off last year.
Yeah.
But I started it off as an all 32 team website. And really, I appreciate all of the writers for everything that they did and everything like that. But I feel like it's kind of fatigued really early on.
Right.
So we are bringing it back to what I know the best and love the most. And that's going to be a Baltimore Ravens only website.
I love it.
Yeah. We are going to have a news section for all the other teams that don't matter. But it's going to be mostly Baltimore Ravens, and then we're partnered with Draft Right, which is NFLDraftRight.com. It's RITE, by the way. And that's where all like the draft stuff is gonna be. Actually, right before I called in, I was working on my first mock draft. So
nice,
all
man.
right.
Mock drafts. It's that time of year, man. That's where I did my first the other day and posted it on Twitter. Didn't get a whole lot of love with it, but whatever. I'm sure I'll find one in the 50 that I do between now and then that somebody will like. We'll see.
Somebody will like something.
You gotta go check out the one I did earlier today for the Ravens. It's on my Twitter. I'm pretty proud of it. PFF does not know how to grade prospects, so that's a little weird. But the draft is really good.
Well, you mentioned your Twitter. Give everybody your Twitter handle, man.
Oh yeah, it's fairly simple. It's at late round corner because I played cornerback and I was good, but not that good. So yeah, it's at late round corner, and then NZI is at NZI Properties. So if you guys want to go follow those two, feel free. I hope you have thick skin because some people follow me and block me.
Parental guidance is advised. All right, man. So speaking of corner, right? I got to get your opinion on some things with this Ravens secondary. And I'm going to start with, I guess, one of the more controversial players in the secondary right now, and that's Marcus Peters. And the reason I say controversial is because he is that boom or bust kind of corner, right? We all know that he's a big play gambler, and when he makes a play, it's a big one. It can be a game changer. This year, yeah, for sure. This year, the big plays, though, seem to be a little fewer and farther in between this past season. I mean, he ended up with 4 interceptions, which isn't bad. I'm not trying to knock anything. But in 4 interceptions, he only had 17 return yards, so he didn't have any of those pick six. What do you evaluate with Marcus Peters? Do you think this was just a rough season for him? It was opportunities. What do you think is going on with Marcus?
I don't think there's anything going on with Marcus.
Okay.
When he signed, like, you had the Chiefs fans and the Rams fans that were like, oh, he can't cover, and this, that, and the third. Like, they wanted to dog him.
Right.
But Marcus has always been that boomer bust, like, gambler, and you know what you're getting with it. You know that there's going to be some plays that is just like, all right, that was not your best play. Why are you playing 10 yards off of Juju? Like, what are you doing?
Right.
But I don't think there's anything going on with Marcus. Like, interceptions are really hard to get. So the fact he has racked them in at an alarming rate and leads the NFL since he's entered the NFL, like that, there's something. The range of outcomes for Marcus Peters in 2021, I tend to lean more towards him getting the picks and making the big plays more than I do him having a quiet year like he did in 2020, because that's just your range of outcomes. History shows that that's what he's going to do. So the people that are like, oh, Marcus Peters had a down year and blah, 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 he signed the contract and he got comfortable. I don't think that's it at all. Marcus Peters does not like to lose. Marcus Peters likes to be able to talk his shit. And to talk his shit, you have to make the plays. Well, I think we see Marcus Peters return to form.
Let me ask you this. I wanted to get your take on this with him as well. For me, when I watch him, it almost seems like there are games where – I don't want to say he lets off, but there are definitely other games that he seems to get more amped up for. When the bright spotlights are on and they're shining its brightest, is when he seems to have his biggest games. Is that true? I mean, like, do you see that with him too? Do you think that, like, some games he's giving it 100% and some games maybe he's a little off?
He definitely takes plays off.
Yeah.
At first, like, I was watching him and I was like, no, he's not taking plays off. But then they started to pile up. And I was like, there was a few that I saw he was like jogging down the field. And I'm like, all right. Now, granted, in some of those, the game was kind of out of hand to begin with. So I get it. Like, don't injure yourself in a game that you're not going to win anyway.
Right.
But there are some plays like in the Tennessee game in the postseason. He did take a couple of plays off there. Granted, it didn't throw to him anyway. So it's not a huge deal. Right. And winning covers up a lot of stuff like that. But there were other games, too, like in the must-win run from the Browns on. There were some plays that you kind of look at them, all right, step it up, Marcus.
Right.
Well, so I want to follow that up, too, because like one of my biggest issues is that risk versus reward. There are a lot of plays where I wish he's more up on the line and being a little bit more chippy on the line, coming off the line than he is. He tends to give that buffer in hopes to get that big play that it's going to bait the quarterback to make that quick throw, and he's looking for that read. But in a lot of times, what happens is he takes that initial step in to get the to get the bait and then gets beat deep. My question is, I mean, do you see that as an issue of a guy? I know he's getting the interceptions on and jumping the routes on some of these, but more often than not, I see him getting beat deep. I mean, do you see that as an issue at all?
So Marcus likes to bite on the double move a lot.
Yeah.
And I do see that as an issue. The problem is that, again, it goes back to that what you're getting with Marcus. Like, because you can't predict whether, typically, you cannot predict whether you are going to be able to get the interception or not.
Right.
And Marcus has never been like the guy that's going to follow a wide receiver deep and stay on him. So that leads that, I mean, I would circle around to the edge rush and the lack of pressure. They're not helping Marcus out at all. You have the technician in Marlon Humphrey. You have another technician and a physical guy in Jimmy Smith. Marcus is that guy that's supposed to be able to take those gambles, much like Ed Reed was able to back in the day. You can't babysit Marcus. So having him play a much more technical game, you're going to see a worse production from him because he's not your technical corner. He's extremely smart, but he's not a technical guy.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, I think we can all agree Marlon Humphrey is probably the best all-around cornerback on this team. But unfortunately, over the last couple of years, he's had to play a lot of his time in the slot. And a lot of that's due to Tavon Young just not being able to stay on the field, not being able to stay healthy. It sucks because this kid showed a lot of promise right before he signed the big contract. I thought he looked great. Was a value guy that we got out of Temple. But I'm to a point now. I mean, we haven't seen him on the field in 2 years now at this point, really. Hardly at all. What's your evaluation on Tavon Young? I mean, can he do enough to keep himself healthy and actually be a part of this team?
I don't know that he can. So with the Joker, with Deshaun Elliott, you could chalk that up to a couple of unlucky breaks. Really, I mean, pun intended. With Tavon, it's a consistent injury history now.
Yeah.
And if you can't stay on the field, people love to say this about Jimmy Smith all the time. Oh, he's never on the field. He's not this. He's not that. Tavon Young is on pace to shatter Jimmy Smith's missed games record.
Yeah.
If you cannot stay on the field, you have to be replaced. So while I think he would serve as a viable backup, I think you have to look at getting another slot guy, like a Desmond King type player.
I agree.
Alternatively, you keep Marlon in the slot and you look at another outside cornerback.
Patrick Peterson.
I wasn't going to say it. I was halfway kidding about bring me Patrick Peterson.
I know.
But
what you wouldn't mind it is what I'm hearing.
Right. And then you put Patrick Peterson and Marcus Peters or Patrick Peterson and Jimmy Smith outside.
Right.
And then you have Marlon in the slot and you have Tavon Young on the bench, which, I mean, that's an incredible backup. If one of the outside corners goes down, you move Marlon back outside, and then you put Tavon in, and hopefully it's only like 4 games, so he can't break anything. Right.
That's very true. That's very true. So you had mentioned, real quickly, Deshaun Elliott. He's a guy, and the safeties in general is an area Scott and I have talked about at ends.
Ad
really.
nauseam.
Hold on. Can I pause here?
Yeah.
So Joe Carlozo?
Yeah,
sure.
You got it.
Said that Young has to be cut. He said that in the chat. You can't cut him, man.
Yeah.
The dead cap hit is it's not worth it. You
Agreed.
keep him on the team even if it's only in a backup role.
Agreed. 100% with that. Especially right now with as tight as money's going to be. You can't afford to do it. Chuck Clark, Deshaun Elliott, both I think very good players in their own right. And I know that, obviously Deshaun Elliott's coming off the injury, and this was like his first full season, full healthy season with the team. But to me, it seems like this group of safeties is missing something. And I don't know if it's because I've said this before, it almost seems like we have 2 strong safeties out on the field, that we don't have that true center fielder, that true rangy center fielding type free safety.
Yeah.
And I know we're spoiled because we had Ed Reed here for a long time, and I think in our back of our minds we think another Ed Reed's coming, but that's just fucking ridiculous. It's never going to happen. But, I mean, do you think that they need to add something else to the safety backfield, or do you think that this combo can work?
I think that they need to add something else. I've been playing with the idea of a safety early in the mock drafts.
Okay.
Because, man, I'll tell you what, those 2 safeties from TCU, are out of this world good.
I've heard.
Our Darius Washington and the other one, ridiculous. Javon Holland from Oregon, like if you're going after a mid-round safety, that's a guy. Or, I mean, if you can find a guy in free agency, sure. But you're halfway right. They do have two strong safeties playing out there at all times. I think that Deshaun Elliott has a little bit more of that free safety in him. The problem is that you don't want to lose, Jesus Christ, you don't want to lose Deshaun Elliott's ability to hit up close.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if we're going this route, you're talking about Chuck Clark being off the field.
Yeah. And Chuck Clark's been really the field general, for the last couple of years.
He's been very good.
He's too valuable in that piece to not have him out there, and he's able to get people in position, make sure that they're ready. And I honestly think Wink depends on him a lot.
Yeah.
As he should.
And like I said, I think for me, it's just I'm so spoiled with Ed Reed and missing that playmaking back end safety. I mean, now, granted, Deshaun Elliott makes plays. He just makes plays in a different way. He's not a guy that's making these big interceptions. He's not a guy that's baiting a quarterback into throwing his way so that he can jump the. He's not doing those things, but he is making.
He's the guy that'll lay out Derrick Henry.
Exactly. Yeah. He's that Ronnie Lott type safety in my mind.
So you kind of mentioned it before, right, with the pass rush just not being able to get there, which is kind of hurting some of these guys to an extent. So I want to talk free agency for a minute because we've got some big names coming and going. And on the defensive side of the ball, we've got a lot of questions on that pass rush, right? Or lack thereof. So I'm gonna put you as the general manager.
EDC.
You're EDC, all right? Knowing the cap situation is limited, you've got Judon, Yannick, Tyus, Purnell. They're all there, but you don't have enough money to go around. Are you paying any of these guys to stay? And if so, who?
Man, I'm a big keep Yannick guy.
Really? Did not expect you to go there.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, he didn't produce with sacks and this, that, and the third. You have to understand that Yannick went from playing a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end to a stand-up rusher.
True.
And he went from a very simplistic defense to a very complicated defense. It's the same thing with Earl Thomas. Okay, so remember when Earl Thomas first got there in the first year, he was, it was said that he wasn't picking up defense, and he said himself that it took him a little while to pick it up and to figure out what
Right.
You have to give, not only did you trade draft capital for Ngakwe, but you have to give him the chance to pick the defense up. You have to give him at least one more year. I don't know if that's a franchise tag. I don't know if that's a, hey, listen, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, so we're not going to pay you as much kind of contract or what. But I think if you can keep Yannick, you keep him. Because, again, the range of outcomes. History has shown us that he is much better than what his 2020 production looked like.
Okay.
You want that kind of guy on the team. Bowser is another one. I think Bowser, especially towards the end of the season, priced himself out of Baltimore if they have to keep one of either Judon or Yannick. I don't think you can keep just Bowser because I don't think you can rely on him to be the guy. But I would love to find a way to keep Yannick and Bowser because I think Bowser as a coverage edge guy is really coming on.
I agree with you, and if I'm going to keep one of the two of Yannick or Judon, I'm keeping Yannick if I have to keep one of them. But I just don't think with the way money's going to have to start transitioning over to the offensive side of the ball, we're going to have to start paying some of our guys over there. How much you'd have to pay to keep Yannick and how much you'd have to keep to pay Tyus together, you're basically tapped at that point going into this year. I mean, you're talking, what, $18 million you're going to have estimated cap space?
I mean, honestly, so that was kind of leading into my next question because, that's kind of where there's some debate going on. There should be some shift of this money to the offensive side, but then there's worry if we shift too much money to that offensive side, we're losing what we know we have on this defense right now. So what are your thoughts?
You know this is the devil you don't.
Yeah, I mean, so what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think we do need to shift and put some more of this money on the offensive side?
Man, so this is a complicated answer because I would love to put some money on the offensive side of the ball. I would love to bring in Allen Robinson. Or if you don't want to pay that much money, I'd like to bring in like a Corey Davis.
Right.
Maybe you want to pay a veteran center instead of putting your trust in a guy like Creed Humphrey.
Right.
but the defense is such a proven commodity. And I think if you I think the smart play would be to keep Yannick, let Judon and Bowser walk. You're going to get comp picks for at least one of them. You can draft a guy like Jalen Phillips or Aziz Ojolari, maybe Greg Russo falls. There's some edge rushers later on like Patrick Jones that you can get and actually develop them. Don't stunt their growth like they did with Jalen Ferguson.
Right.
They just kept signing guys. And honestly, you could probably get McPhee back with a veteran minimum.
That's kind of where I was leaning. I was more leaning the Bowser and the McPhee thing on the value side and start shifting some of that money to maybe a wide receiver or to some offensive line help on the offensive side of the ball.
So the other thing is that the offensive line draft class is out of this world.
I've heard.
It is so good, both inside and outside. So I think a lot of this relies on whether you believe JLC and that the Ravens are going to trade Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
Because then the entire talk shifts, right? Then you have to go after an offensive tackle early on. Plus, you still need at least center help, if not guard help as well.
Right.
So then the talks change. But as it stands right now, with OBJ still on the team, I think you can draft the center. So I think you can shy away from veteran money there.
Right.
And I think you can get one of the second-tier wide receivers and keep one of your edge guys.
Well, you mentioned him, so we got to talk about him. Orlando Brown, that's the hot button topic. It's going around social media right now. And I hate quoting this guy because he's a crappy reporter, but Jason Lockenford did tweet today that he was hearing multiple teams were interested in the trade based on level of interest, good chance of trade that makes sense for all party comes together. Brown has a strong relationship with the Ravens. Who would want value for him? Of course. So if Orlando Brown's days in Baltimore are numbered, which it sure sounds like they are, what kind of value do you hope or expect to get in return for somebody like Orlando?
If it is not a first-round value package, and I say package by like value in the first round plus some, I am going to be pissed.
Yeah.
Orlando Brown went into the draft with first-round hype, and then his combine kicked him all the way down in the third round. I never lost faith in him. I still wanted Orlando Brown. We got Orlando Brown, and look what he's done.
Right.
There is an offensive line talent disparity in the NFL. Somebody is going to overpay for Orlando Brown. Take full advantage of that if you have to get rid of him.
Right.
The reason I say if is because he's still going to be on his rookie contract, and the team still controls him in 2021. If the cap goes back up in 2022, you have the ability to pay him right tackle money. Now, you might not like right tackle money because you think you're a left tackle, but winning cures a lot of woes.
That's true.
So if they can put together a Super Bowl winning team and they have a chance to make a run at more, wouldn't you want to stay in Baltimore where you have your father's legacy?
You would think.
These close times with the team that you yourself have said. Like, it just...
You would
I
think.
don't trust JLC to begin with. And I'm not sure. I think a lot of these rumors were fan started by what OBJ was tweeting out.
Yeah, and so that was going to be my follow-up with this was it started with the small I'm a left tackle tweet, right? That's kind of how everybody kind of started talking about this thing. It's how the rumor started. But then he followed that up a few days later with the story about, his father. And his father, kind of telling him that he wanted him to be a left tackle, and that if he wasn't a left tackle, he wasn't going to play. Talking about his days growing up as a kid. Yeah. That his dream isn't money related. His dream is to be a left tackle.
Right.
And I agree with you. Like, all the stars aligned for Baltimore, right? Where he was drafted in Baltimore when nobody else gave him a chance. His father's, played here. He grew up here. Everything says, God, if anybody's going to want to stay in Baltimore, it's Orlando Brown Jr. But for him to be putting that stuff out in the media, this seems to have more legs to it than I originally thought. To me, it feels like this might actually come to fruition. I think this is actually going to happen.
So I'm going to throw a wrench. I'm going to throw a wrench into this, right? What if that's that Baltimore has had the conversation with him that he's going to be the left tackle moving forward.
And if that's the case, then they must have had a conversation with Ronnie already because they signed him to a long term.
Right, but I'm just throwing that out there because then he goes into the whole tweet about his father's legacy, his father's dream. Maybe maybe this is a whole story of a dream realized.
Do you see that coming true? Do you see Ronnie Stanley moving to right tackle to appease Orlando Brown?
So this is actually, I was going to follow up with something else. I don't know that it's to appease Orlando Brown more than if that did happen, it would be because the Ravens use this argument. Defensive fronts are moving their stud pass rusher around at a higher rate than we have ever seen before. Right. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
Against the Texans, Orlando Brown was on the right side. Who was he matched up against?
Right.
J.J. Watt.
Right.
T.J. Watt moves from side to side. Right tackle and left tackle, I think, are becoming more and more equal in today's NFL because of, you have rushers that can play on both sides. And if you're having these rushers that can play on both sides and be a menace on both sides, both tackles are equally important. So if it happened, and I don't think that it will because they paid Ronnie Stanley, they paid him left tackle money.
Right.
Literal left tackle
money. Left tackle money.
Yeah. I can't see Baltimore being like, I know we've paid you millions and millions of dollars, but here, just go play on the right side and shut this dude up. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, me either. I don't see that happen. But listen,
I'm just throwing it out there. Like I said, it was just a wrench in the situation.
Yeah, I can't see it happening. But there are some teams out there that have a ton of draft capital and that need a lot of offensive line help. Jacksonville's one of them. Obviously, they're going to be taking Miami's another one, right? Jacksonville's taking their quarterback of the future in Trevor Lawrence, everybody says, right? So they're going to want to protect him. And I know that there's a ton that they could draft in this draft that could be plug and start right away. I get that. There's a lot, but there's no guarantees with the draft. You know what you're getting in Orlando Brown at the NFL level. He's proven that. He's a Pro Bowl right and left tackle, so you can put him anywhere you want to. So you're also getting a couple of years of age. You're getting a couple of years of wear and tear. True.
You're getting a massive contract because in 2022, I mean, if he keeps this up, he's going to command a massive contract.
Jacksonville, if anybody can afford it, though, they've got a boatload of space.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But let me ask you this: how stupid would it be, and how pissed off would you be if they ended up trading within the division?
I already know the answer to this question.
Say like Cincy, who desperately needs help to protect Burrow. How pissed off would you be to see Orlando Brown suiting up for the Bengals?
Man, I would be torn because I love Orlando Brown, but I absolutely hate the Bengals. I would immediately want to figure out a way to draft a guy like Gregory Rousseau or something like that and just make Orlando Brown's life a living hell every time he faces the Ravens.
Right. Yeah, it's I can't. It doesn't seem like a Ravens type of move. I know they're pulling this, similar what they did with Hayden Hurst. You have the ability to go out there and seek a trade and whatnot, but I just can't see Eric DeCosta making a move inside the division unless he gets absolutely blown away with a deal that he just can't say no to.
Yeah, you want to give us 5 overall? Right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You give us 5 overall and a 3rd round pick. We'll talk about it.
Exactly.
You got Drew's attention over there with that.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I mean, you'd be stupid to say no to that. But the other side of that is the Ravens are squarely in the middle of their Super Bowl window, and like you said, there's no guarantees in the draft.
Right.
So, and they don't have anybody to play tackle right now on the roster. So that's a lot of work if they get rid of Orlando Brown. You're looking at a lot of work.
That's exactly right. That was going to be my next question. I mean, that's Orlando's obviously a key piece of this offensive line. We already have the issues that we have on the interior of the offensive line. So I know that he nets you good draft capital if you do trade him, but how much more concerned does that make you about this offense overall if you get rid of a piece like Orlando Brown?
It increases tenfold.
Yeah.
So you're already having struggles on the interior offensive line, and then you get rid of one half of your bookend tackles.
Right.
So your running game is going to take a hit, first of all. Okay. And then your quarterback is going to take a hit, literally. quite a few hits because Orlando Brown is no longer there.
Right.
If you can guarantee that you can get a guy like Rashawn Slater in the draft, who's probably OT2, I would say, or maybe Christian Darrisaw, who's probably OT3. If you can get a guy like that and nail a center and be able to pick up a stud wide receiver like a Corey Davis or an Allen Robinson or something like that,
Right.
then I think you do it. But there are very few scenarios where all of the stars align and you're able to just be like, all right, get out of here. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts with that. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to give my opinion on the Ronnie Stanley move into right tackle thing real quick. The only way that that's okay, even if Stanley's cool with it, you don't do that on a 1-year expiring contract. If Orlando Brown's telling the truth and money didn't matter, it's the position and the honor, he signs a 5-year extension at top right tackle money, and then he gets to play left tackle. Because you can't do it on an expiring contract. There's no reason to mess up what's going on when he's going to force his way out after the contract ends. That's my
That's also correct. And you can't pay two guys top left tackle money.
Yeah, so that's why he has to be on a right tackle contract.
Yeah, so obviously we're talking about the line. Let's move to the outside here, right? Let's talk wide receivers here. Are you one of these Ravens fans and Ravens media that is hoping the Ravens can figure out a way to bring a true number one here, or do you think there's a better shot in the draft?
The answer is yes.
Yes to everything.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Fred knows I'm a big Allen Robinson guy.
Yeah.
Big Allen Robinson guy. You look at what that guy has done with absolute trash at quarterback. It's DeAndre Hopkins all over again.
Right.
He had this rotating carousel of shit at quarterback up to and including Osweiler. And until he got Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray, like he was still absurd numbers. Allen Robinson has done the same thing. I don't think it's feasible with the cap situation to bring Allen Robinson in, even on a 1-year contract, even on a 5-year contract. I just don't think it's possible. I would like for them to pick up a guy like maybe a Corey Davis. He has kind of that same build. If he could stay healthy, he's big enough.
That's the question mark with him is the health.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're projecting him at like $9.8 million a year, which I think is a little high for a guy like Corey Davis.
Right.
So I would like for them to sign a vet. I'm not real sold on AJ Green. I know everybody's like, "Oh, AJ Green, this is not your dad's AJ Green."
No,
this is
maybe a decade ago we're good with AJ Green, not now.
Correct.
No better than Dez.
But if you're looking at the draft, man, I think you got to look at guys that look like Rashad Bateman. He's my favorite wide receiver for the Ravens. Realistic wide receiver. Obviously, we'd all love Jamar Chase. We'd all love Devontae Smith. But it's not going to happen. So I think you have to look at guys like Rashad Bateman. Nico Collins is intriguing in the middle rounds as an X receiver. Stay the hell away from Amari Rodgers. I don't care if he's T. Martin's son.
I was going to
He's a
say.
slot receiver.
A lot of parallels there. People are hoping for it, but yeah, I'm not a fan either.
I see a lot of people that talk about like Rondell Moore and blah, blah, blah. These are all slot receivers. I think the slot job might be Duvernay's in 2021. So you need to have that bigger, physical outside guy that can play opposite of Marquise and take some of the attention off Marquise so Marquise can do what he does. Like I said before, I think the answer is yes. And I think you have to keep attacking it through the draft, but I think you also bring in a veteran presence that can help mentor. And maybe it's Des Bryant. I don't know. Well, I think Bryant is not as big of that was a name buy, I think.
Oh, 100% it was. 100%. Let me ask you this, though, because I meant to say this on the Orlando Brown, and this ties in with the wide receivers. If the Chargers come knocking for Orlando Brown and they're willing to package a Mike Williams, are you listening?
Yeah, if you're giving me Mike Williams and swapping first-round picks.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're giving me some stuff on top of that.
Right. I'm just asking Mike Williams because I think he'd be a good fit in this offense.
But again, you're looking at health issues.
Yeah, true. That is true.
So I mean, I liked Mike Williams. I don't think he should have gone. Well, he was 9th overall, or was that Corey Davis? He was either 9th or 18th.
He was top 15. I know that for sure.
Yeah. So So, I mean, I liked Mike Williams. I was high on him. I haven't really followed him to see what he's been doing. I think he does fit that prototypical mold that I'm looking for, though. Absolutely.
Right.
I just wonder, and they do need offensive line help, so that's very plausible. I just wonder if they would package him in a deal.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Mike Williams will be due for a contract soon too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Mike Williams is the problem with bringing a wide receiver like that to Baltimore is that they're not going to have the eye-popping numbers that casual fans want them to have. It's not that kind of offense.
Right.
And it won't be as long as we have a athletic, like a running quarterback under center and a stellar running game with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. It's just not going to be one of those, like, hey, we have a top 10 wide receiver in the league. We might in skill, you're not going to have it in statistics.
Right. All right, well, let's stay with the draft, right? Let's say nothing happens with the Orlando Brown situation. We stay at number 27 overall. Are there any names out there, some guys that you really like? Give me three. Give me three at 27 that you think realistically might be there and that you'd like to see in Baltimore.
All right. Rashad Bateman, obviously.
Great minds, man. I love Rashad Bateman. I've been saying that for weeks, so I love him.
He has one of the highest floors in the draft, which is really what interests me.
Yep.
But he also has one of the highest ceilings. He's being slept on, and I don't understand why.
Because the Terps shut him down twice.
Listen, everybody has a bad day. Okay.
I mean, Matt Ryan got shut down by the Terps, too, so maybe he's an all-pro. I don't know.
That was a long time ago, Matt Ryan.
The Jets won games this year. Okay?
That's true.
Everybody has a bad day.
Touche.
So he's one. Jalen Phillips out of Miami. He's an edge rusher for those who are unacquainted with him. He's actually, I think he might be the better edge rusher out of him and Greg Rousseau. The problem is that Jalen Phillips has a bit of an injury history, and that scares me.
Right.
But, boy, that kid can do it all. He is insanely good. Third one, let's go with Pat Freiermouth. Freiermouth? Friar Tuck. That's what I call him. Friar Tuck. He's a tight end, and boy, he's good. He's tight end 2, right behind, well, not right behind Kyle Pitts, but behind Kyle Pitts. And I think this offense really thrives with that would bump Boyle back down to tight end 3. He could go back to the blocking role, blah, blah, blah. And this kid would really open up the offense. So there's those 3. Creed Humphrey is my honorable mention because the more I watch him and the more I listen to people that are kind of in the know, I'm not too sure that the NFL has a first-round grade on Creed Humphrey.
I was going to say, everything that I've been reading about projects him in like the high to mid-second round is what I'm seeing.
Right. So if you can grab a guy like that at 59, let's go.
Yeah, all day long.
But there's also, who's the other center? God, it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't. Landon Dickerson.
Yes, Dickerson. Yep.
Yeah, he's another option if you don't get Creed Humphrey. I mean, I want Creed. Creed is my IOL 1. So.
Yeah, I'm glad that you also mentioned a potential tight end in the first round because that's something that I don't think Ravens fans realized how much of a loss it was going to be losing Hayden Hurst. I know, like, when you look at his statistics and all that stuff, he had, 300 or 400 yards receiving and whatnot, but just not having that second true pass-catching tight end out there really changed the dynamic of this offense.
And especially, you know, we've talked about it, Chips. I'm interested to get your take on what you saw out of it this year, right? Obviously, we've mentioned it before. Not having that 3 tight end set this year really hurt us. You can see it from an offensive standpoint. Do you think, this tight end that you're mentioning is a guy that we could get? Do you think that helps shore that up?
I'm sorry. I stopped listening because I saw a really stupid comment in the chat.
What was it?
And
Go
of
ahead.
course it's Garnett. Of course it's Garnett.
Of course.
Brett Jordan is tight end 2 and Trey McKitty is tight end 3. That's, not true. I love Trey McKitty. I've been taking him in the 6th or 7th round in every single draft that I do. He's a cat out of Georgia, and he's good. He's not the 3rd tight end, for sure. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
So I was talking about with the tight ends, with the Ravens. We really saw this year the how much it hurt not having that 3 tight end set out there. Right, we saw the effect from one year to the other when you lose that. The guy that you were mentioning that we could get, is that somebody that you can think could help shore up the 3 tight end set and get back to that formation, which gives a little bit more threat, opens up Andrews a little bit more, and then in turn winds up opening up some of those wide receivers.
Oh, absolutely. Friar Tuck he's a great route runner. He has solid hands. He has good size for the position. His releases could probably use a little bit of work, and his blocking is above average, but it's obviously nowhere near Nick Boyle. I would say it's probably better than Andrews, not nearly as good as Nick Boyle. He has decent speed. He's probably going to run around 4.5, 4.5.5 maybe.
Okay.
So I definitely think he offers a lot of what Hayden Hurst was able to do in terms of opening up the offense, but I think he offers more playmaking ability than Hayden Hurst. And I also think that his hands don't seem to go cold in big moments.
Right.
Marcus Andrews. So, I would feel comfortable taking him at 27.
Okay.
The other wild card in this, and I can't think of the fucking guy's name, the kid that we stashed from Oregon that was hurt. I think that's a piece that I think we found, in my opinion, just with and granted it was a small sample size. We only saw him like 5 or 6 games before he got hurt 2 years ago. What I saw was...
Wait, are you talking about Eli Wolf or the other kid?
The kid out of Oregon. I think it might have been Wolf. Was it Wolf?
I thought his name began with a B.
Wolf.
You like Wolf?
You're talking about the kid that was on Pup all year.
Yes.
Yeah, not Eli Wolf. Eli Wolf was on the practice squad, and you're right. I can't remember the kid's name either.
Yeah, I can't think. He played in Oregon.
He's an undrafted guy.
He was leading the nation in receptions, yards, touchdowns for a tight end before he ended up getting hurt.
Jacob Breland.
Breland, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, yeah, that's a guy that I think fans need to not forget about, too.
Thank you,
We do have that piece stashed away. I'm not saying that he's going to be, a day one starter next year. But I really think that the whole moral of this is that the Ravens need to get back to having 2 pass-catching threats out there at the tight end position because it was very detrimental to this team not having it this year.
Correct. And, Breland has for lack of a better scientific term, a metric fuck ton of upside. The problem is that we're looking at another injury concern.
True.
So let's follow this rabbit hole and just say that Breland, obviously the Ravens think Breland might be the guy. That's why they stashed him all year.
Right.
So if Breland's on the field, then you're not taking a tight end in round 1. Then you're looking at like a backup tight end. And that's if you don't trust Eli Wolf. Then you're looking at guys like Trey McKitty on day 3.
Got it.
Because he is a day 3 tight end. I want to make that abundantly clear. I love Trey McKitty. He's not tight end 3.
I like it. Well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the show. We're going to have you stick around for our social media shout. I know Ryan's been monitoring the chat room. I know there's some comments up there, some questions that people wanted to ask you, if you don't mind.
Also, I got a question. Yeah. I'm assuming you're not a Terps fan out there, Mr. Chibbs, huh?
Correct. I went to ASU. I'm an ASU fan.
All right, because the 2 guys you want us to draft, Pat Fryermuth dropped an absolute egg against the Terps also with Mr. Bateman. So I was sitting here looking up their stats and how they got nothing going on.
Oh, wow. You're talking to the biggest Terp fan in the world. My gosh, it's ridiculous. He'll always bring it back to the Terps no matter what.
God damn it.
Pat Fryermuth looked like a boy lost. He didn't know where his head was with its Terps.
The Jaguars won a game this year, too, all right?
That's right. James, I know you got a question. Hold on a sec.
James is our first guest on the social media shout-out.
James from the casting couch.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Time for a social media shout out. Before we get to that, James, you got a question?
Chips, real quick, because they didn't talk about it. What's your take on our head coach and our
Jesus.
staff about it? How do you feel about his?
This
our
is
head
a guy
coach?
from John Harbaugh needs to go, and he's been saying that for 3 years now. How do you feel
So
about Harbaugh?
offensive-minded coach.
Okay, so John Harbaugh has been very much a roller coaster with me. There were times where I'm like, get him the hell out of here. There are other times where I'm like, yeah, okay, let's see what you can do. There are many people that are in the school of thought that Lamar Jackson saved John Harbaugh's job.
Right.
I'm not sure that's necessarily true because John Harbaugh was the reason that the team succeeded at the end of the day, being able to adapt and overcome. So here's my rebuttal question to you. Who are you replacing with him with if you get rid of John Harbaugh?
I would love to see Eric Enemy, something offensive-minded coach. I think John Harbaugh makes bad, 2-minute decision-making. And I think, during the playoffs, he doesn't put his 2 cents in and be like, hey, we need to do this. And I just wondering, do you think this is his last year if it goes south?
I think that if they do not make progress in the postseason, it is probably John Harbaugh's seat-warming year. My question about Eric Bieniemy is how much of that is Eric Bieniemy and how much of it is Andy Reid?
That's what we've been saying.
Because there is absolutely no reason why Eric Bieniemy should not have a job right now.
Correct.
A head
Agreed.
coach.
100% agree.
So there is something there that we are missing.
All right, Ryan, it's time for social media shout out. Who's been out there commenting? Any good comments? Who's talking?
Yeah, first of all, I want to give credit. If you guys are out here this time of year putting out credits, you are already in the top fans of this show because we got a little bit slower than usual. We got Kamal Porter, Joe Carlozo, Chuck Summers, Kenneth Judd, Craig Zero, Samuel L. Jackson, Molten Hawk, Robbie Redfur, Anthony Douglas, Alex DeVoe, Nick Short, Jamal Caldwell, Andrew Sekra, Garnett West, Stanley Dorsey, Ryan Bratton, and Fox23. Got a couple comments here. Joe Carlozo said, do the Ravens trade back in the first round? Which I don't know how much further they can go back. I guess she means out of the first round.
I don't know. This pretty traditional for the Ravens to always field calls. And it comes down to how the draft falls, right, Chiz? I mean, if the draft falls to a place where they've got their eyes on a guy and they can trade back a couple of spots by picking up another pick, I mean, that's just their MO.
Yeah, that's a very loaded answer. First of all, you have to make sure, it depends on how the draft falls to begin with, like you mentioned. Second of all, you have to have a partner. Third of all, you have to get the correct value. And EDC is always going to want more value than what the correct value is. So you have to find a team that is going to overpay you. You have to find a team, period. And you have to ensure that the guy that you want is still going to be there when you trade back.
Gotcha. All right, Ryan, any others?
Yeah, Stanley Dorsey, he talks about if Brown's gone, then Boyle will be in to block constantly. I thought that was a really good point.
Say one more time.
If Orlando Brown is gone and you have, say, a rookie tackle in his place from the draft, then Boyle will be in to block constantly. We lose another receiving threat. Was his point?
We're going to run jumbo set 100% of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be absurd. I don't think that's necessarily true if there's a rookie in there, depending on who the rookie is. If they manage to get a first round package for him, and they're picking at 18 from Miami or 13 from the Chargers or, whatever. And they take, a Rashawn Slater or a Christian Darrisaw or something like that. I think you're comfortable not having Nick Boyle in there blocking 100% of the time. But I do think that there's a steep learning curve, especially, not necessarily for the Ravens offense because it is more collegiate than some of the other offenses in the league. But he brings up a valid point. Nick Boyle is going to have to shift back to more of what they did in 2019.
Yeah, I think that's what worries me about this whole trade with Orlando thing is that we just don't have the depth even to have somebody out there as a stopgap. I do not trust DJ Fluker out there on the right side at all. he needs to be an emergency at only.
He's a depth guy only.
Yeah, for sure. I do not want him out there every day.
So, Chibs, I got to bring this up. It was Garnett who says, Chibs' taste in skill players is like someone that has COVID. Think about it.
Jesus.
Oh, that's great. I've hit on more than he has, so maybe he should go back to Japan and just do what he's good at.
Come on, man. I salute to you, Garnett.
I do need to apologize to you because I was not factual on your Frymuth take here. I just looked back. Bateman did suck the last 2 years against us. 3 for 39 while we got blown out 52-10. And then when we beat him, 5 for 62. But
Bateman?
Pat Frymuth did eat us 6 for 91.
Just
they needed him this year while we beat him.
Just ignore the resident Terp fan over there.
Any more other questions? Or
I got one more if you want it.
Yeah, go for it.
Craig Zero had he's talking about the coaching hires. Says good hires, but will Greg Roman listen to them? Which is the question.
So that is a valid point. I think it's less about Greg Roman listening to them and more about the assistant coaches enforcing their will. Greg Roman's not going to change. He is on the exact same arc in Baltimore that he was in San Francisco. That's why they brought in these guys that excel at what they do, the wide receivers coach and the passing game coordinator and everything like that. So the way that the NFL coaching staff works is that the passing game coordinator is going to come up with like the concepts and everything like that for the passing game. Greg Roman pretty much has to instill them in the playbook. Like otherwise, you're not going to have any passing routes.
Right.
So yes and no. Greg Roman's going to have to listen to them. Otherwise, he's going to be out the door quicker than shit.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to get your take on this last one. Steve, friend of the show on YouTube, chimed in and said, I promise with the lack of combine and COVID, gems will be found in later rounds this year. What's your take on that?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So they're basing, so a lot of these guys, all they have to base their evaluation on is film from 2019 because they opted out.
Right.
So you combine that with the fact that it's like, they're going to be doing their numbers. I'm sure the NFL will have protocols in place to record their combine numbers and things like that at their pro days or whatnot. It's going to be slanted numbers. So you're going to have to evaluate almost purely based on tape. So you're definitely it's going to be a shock draft. Guys that we were all high on are going to drop. Guys that we didn't pay attention to are going to rise. And you're going to get first round talent in round 3. You're going to get third round talent in round 5. I 100% believe that. I'm consistently mocking guys in rounds that, based on their tape, that's where they belong. But they're not getting any hype because, they didn't play in 2020 or they had limited reps in 2019.
That's huge.
Like that. You can see the talent.
That's huge to be able to get that kind of impact that late in the draft. And the Ravens historically have always been good at being able to find that. It's the early round picks on the offensive side of the ball that they're usually not that great at, but it's that value in the middle rounds and the later rounds that they find that they're really good with.
And let's not forget the undrafted guys, right? That's where they're going to find. That's going to be the cream of the crop for them this year. They're going to be able to kind of choose from.
Here's the other thing to think about, too, is that the Ravens haven't really taken that many shots in their 25-year lifespan on first-round offensive talent,
right?
If you're talking about skill positions. There have not been that many day 1, early day 2 shots at wide receiver. Definitely not round 1 because there's, 3, 4 in history?
Yeah.
Yeah, wide receiver, I can think of Travis Taylor, Brashad Perryman, Jamal Lewis.
Jamal Lewis is not a wide receiver.
I'm sorry, no. I'm thinking of first round.
What are we doing here?
I'm thinking of first round skill position. Sorry. Torrey Smith was second round. Yeah, Marquise Brown. Right.
So
not many.
We had one other question, and this will lead us out here. So it was from Craig. He sent us this week. He said, "Can we thank the Bucs for giving us the blueprint on how to beat KC? He believes that Baltimore has the talent, but that we need execution and a game plan for that on both defense and offense."
You're asking a lot, Craig. Yeah, just execute on offense and defense. Yeah. No shit.
Well, I think part of that, the start of that, is bringing in a fresh perspective, and I think bringing in these 2 new coaches in T. Martin and Keith Williams, I think will help with that. Again, to your point, it's all in how much will Greg Roman utilize them, and how much will he let them kind of adapt things and change things and mold this into a more efficient offense. But
and then we also have basically an entirely new defensive coaching staff,
right?
Which I'm pretty stoked about most of them. The DB coach from Houston, I'm a little,
right.
But Wink Martindale didn't have any talent in Denver, and he had the 32nd ranked defense, and then all of a sudden he has some talent in Baltimore, and now look at what he's doing. So we'll give the DB guy a shot, I guess. The biggest thing, man, is I think at this point, since they're 0-3 against them, I think at this point, really, it's about getting the monkey off your back, and it's about going into each game like they have never beaten you before. You have to have that mentality, and then, of course, like Craig said, you have to have the game plan.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure that the Ravens have the talent right now because Tampa Bay has some serious rushers.
Yeah.
And Mahomes was running for his life the entire game.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you don't have the rushers to create the pressure, and Baltimore doesn't, then you can't execute that game plan. It's that simple. It starts up front.
It absolutely does. Well, we got to appreciate you coming out and joining us for the show. Obviously, talking Ravens, it has been a while. We promise it won't be this long for the next time we have you on the show.
Got to do this more often.
Got to have you on more. You give us a great insight. I think, you hit on a lot of things, that both Fred and I have said over the past several weeks, and the peanut gallery over there has said. So we appreciate you joining us. Remind the people who you are, where they can find you, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Pretty easy. My personal Twitter is @LateRoundCorner. If you don't know how to spell that, come on. And then the website Twitter is @NZI Properties. It's neutral zone infraction, so NZI Properties. The website is about to be shut down, like I said, but it will be back up shortly, revamped just for the Ravens fans. And then, of course, you can check out all the draft stuff over at DraftRite. That's RITE.com.
Chibs, appreciate it as always, man. We'll stay in touch through Twitter for sure. Good luck with everything. I'd like to be on your show at some point when you get your show back up and running, so give me a call sometime.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate you boys having me on, and maybe we'll do it around draft time, you think?
Sounds good, man.
Sounds good, man.
For sure.
All right, have a good one, man. See you.
All right, you too, boys.
All right. So, yeah, thanks, Chibs, for being on. Great guest. Obviously, you guys heard him. He's a character. You got to follow him on Twitter. You got to have a good sense of humor on his Twitter. Yeah, that's for sure. He's a good guy, though.
He does not censor anything. He is unfiltered. So again, parental advisory if you're going to check out his Twitter for all you young BSers out there. But a lot of fun having Chib on the show as always.
Yes.
All right, Ryan, it's time for you to talk Terps. I know you've been itching it over there all day. You've been trying to fit it into Ravens talk as much as you possibly can. So let's talk some shell and tell. I know, first off, I got to talk a minute about your latest episode. You went solo last week and released your own Ryan's Rant episode.
How was your mic?
If you listen to it, you'll hear that Fred kicked the training wheels off and had me do my first solo show from beginning to end, all the editing, this, that, and the other. Well, about 25 minutes into a 28-minute show, I called Fred to ask him a different question and realized that I've been recording with my MacBook mic instead of my expensive-ass mic you see sitting in front of Fred's face. We got
Live and learn, man. Trust me.
It still sounds a lot better than most of the podcasts out there, so kind of impressed.
It was a good episode, man. I sat there and listened to it, and I was like, all right, let's see how Ryan does on the first. It's tough when you're doing it by yourself.
It's tough doing a show in general, but when you're by yourself and you're solo, it's a whole nother cadence. It's a whole nother flow. So I have respect
I could never do it live. Like there were so many. I'm like, all right, well, I did 5 minutes straight. Press pause, and then like you just get real good at editing it together, so you guys don't know that. Let the secrets out of the bag here.
That half-hour episode really took him 3 hours.
Yeah. Take me to the shell and tell. Let's go.
All right, let's start with the football squad. Not a whole lot of news going around there, but I guess the big chip that we all kind of knew was coming, we just didn't know where. Linebacker Chance Campbell. I think both you and I have finally dried our eyes from that one. That was a tough pill to swallow.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I've been a big fan
he's
of
a talent.
Chance. Big fan of Chance since day one. Big supporter of his. He's off to Ole Miss.
Yep, going to reincarnate his love affair with DJ Durkin down there. He's the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. He was our very last DJ Durkin recruit on the squad, so hopefully we'll stop seeing exodus from that group of people since there aren't anymore.
Right, so complete turnover of the Durkin era here in Maryland.
It's all done. Everything's done. We've settled with the
done.
McNairs, and all the players are gone. The Durkin era is over. All the negative parts of it.
Right. Well, the Big Ten also released Maryland's schedule for this upcoming season. A little unbalanced in our favor this year, right? So we get 7 home games on this stretch and 5 away games.
Don't worry, they'll make me pay for it.
So where are we going? Where are we going for our second away trip?
I'm really hoping the Ravens' schedule cooperates and lets us go to Chicago on September 18th because, we always like to –
Chicago?
Hey, man, what do you want to go to Ohio State in October? It's the only other one.
I guess I'm packing if I'm going to Chicago.
You're not flying with your arms spread. I think we'll be okay. We'll stay on campus like we did the last time. It'll be all
You
right.
guys could take a shorter trip and go to Rutgers.
Rutgers is that's way down the list, and nobody's going to New Jersey in November.
Don't
27th.
even say it. Don't even say it because we went to Minnesota with no expectations. It was the best trip ever. New Jersey could be the epic trip of all of them. Who knows?
Well, I have a feeling you guys are going to end up in Atlantic City if you go to Jersey.
Oh God, another trash town.
But they kick off the year at home against West Virginia. Obviously, that's been a battle that we've had over the course of the years. I don't know how this team's going to shake out yet. There's still a lot of question marks that need to be answered. There's a lot of youth that's going to be involved with this team. The offensive line's had some shakeups with
the biggest question.
I think that's our biggest question, especially with this offensive success. You lose your star running back in Jake Funk, who's now going to the NFL. Some of the young guys that we had a little taste of this year at the running back position, Isaiah Jacobs and big guy, Penny Boone. They showed flashes, but I don't know if either one of them was ready to take on the lion's share of carries.
No, but they also didn't have any summer training. We were literally fresh out of high school. They didn't get to be involved. I'm hoping a year in the weight training program and technique. A lot of their problems was fumbles, things like they're just not used. They're used to just running away from people in high school. They didn't have to secure the ball. They got to get some work to do when you're at a whole different level.
Well, now that the schedule's out and we know that there's quote unquote supposed to be a full 12-game season.
I was saying this is a lot of conversation for a what if.
Yeah, there were 4 schedules last year. And by the way, I will give the West Virginia a little credit. That was the one that hurt the most. The one that came off the schedule last year. I wanted to see that.
Yeah,
that was sad.
You get to see it the first week. So just glancing at this schedule right now, obviously we've got all the Big Ten matchups in there that we normally would have. The Ohio State game's going to be a tough one. The Penn State game's always going to be tough too. What would be a realistic expectation win-wise for this team, and where would you be happy that we're going in the right direction?
If our offensive line holds up, that's my biggest if.
Right.
If the offensive line is not just a sieve like you saw in the Super Bowl,
and
it's some semblance of an offensive line, I truly believe you're looking at 6 to 7 wins, which is a huge jump.
It's
a huge jump.
That's huge.
Our wide receiver core is intact. We have not heard any news of any of them jumping, and we thought there was a possibility 2 to 3 could just decide to get up and jump.
Right.
And so we have a stacked wide receiver core. We proved last year that we have a real quarterback. The only thing with a real quarterback is he has to stay standing, so this offensive line is still a problem. The defense has the most talent it's ever had. It's all young.
But it's very young.
It's very young. The defensive line is the youngest of the group. Our linebacker core is still... I feel confident, and we still got Nick Cross. This is probably the last year you're going to see Nick Cross. We got to win with Nick Cross. I don't see him being more than a 3-year player because he's got that kind of talent.
Right.
If we get a 4th year out of him, great. But I think this is it. So we got a lot of defensive talent. It's this year or bust with that. So if we can hold people to 21 points. I think we should be able to score 21 points every week.
But your realistic expectation is 6 to 7 wins, and that's what you're hoping for to see progress and be happy with the direction of this. University.
At 5 wins, I'm okay, but I'm a little sad. We've done that before. We've been that close to a bowl game. I want to go bowling this year. That's what this is for. That's how you show that there really is momentum. You really are getting there. Now, I look at the schedule, and honestly, I only see 2 games we can't win. That we can't win. Ohio State and Iowa are going to destroy us. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
The rest, I wouldn't be surprised if we win them. So do I think that there's like a sliver if everything went right, 10-2?
Woo!
Maybe. But it's not happening. There's like 3 coin flips in there. You're not winning all the coin flips.
So Fred, you asked him, what's your take?
I think so I'm right at the 6-win mark. If we get 6 wins, I'm happy. 6 wins will get us bowling or should get us bowling. Even if it's the Meineke Muffler Bowl, I don't care at this point. Whatever gets us bowling, I'm happy with it. I don't think there's going to be fans in the stands for whatever bowl it is again anyway, just because of the way things are going. But who knows?
It's in Florida. It's going to be packed out. Let's go.
We'll see.
Might be the only game we'll see next year.
I hope you guys are right, because the one thing I think about is there's definitely a lot of question marks right now, as you guys both kind of alluded to, where are we going to look at running backs? How are we going to look on this offensive line? Are we going to see Tagovailoa scramble again for his life, throw the interceptions that you all gave me crap, and he did it twice, right? But there's too many question marks for me to be able to say, I think this team can make it to a bowl. If I'm putting it on paper right now, not knowing what this freshman class is truly going to be able to do, because it's a step up in speed, right? You're playing against some top-tier talent. I think 4 wins is I'm happy with 4 wins this year, with not knowing that it's there. If it's 6, I am all for what you guys are saying. But I'm also trying to be realistic. But we have a lot of question marks.
Scott Howard is one of those 4 wins. So that means you're only getting 3 wins.
To Ryan's credit, I really think that this schedule plays in our favor, that we should be able to win 6 games in our sleep if we stay healthy.
So name off the 6 games.
So Howard and Kent State.
Howard, Kent State, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers are, to me,
you think we're going to be able to beat Minnesota?
Yeah. Minnesota was.
They had one hot.
They had a great running back. That was it.
And they had Rashad Bateman.
And they had Rashad Bateman, but they didn't have a quarterback this year who couldn't get him the ball. Last year they did. This year he was trash, but the running back is what carried him. That's just my opinion. I think they should be able to win 6 games.
Scott's probably right. Every year I think we're going to win 6 games. We win 3. So, but and again, if we go to an all Big Ten schedule, this is all different. But if I'm marking down, think about the last year we got to sit in the stands.
Yeah.
Our non-Big Ten schedule with that team that was nowhere near as good as this team was beating people by 60 points a game.
Right.
So you just mark down Howard and Kent State as W's.
The only thing that concerns me defensively, I talked about it going into last year. I was concerned about the secondary. Well, the secondary played out of this world and got better and better and better as the season went on. So the secondary is actually not a concern for me this year. The concerns, believe it or not, is the linebacker position. And it's not because I don't think we have talent there. We got a boatload of talent coming in, but it's all young, and you lose your field general in Chance Campbell, right? He's the guy out there that's reading and reacting. He's the brain of the defense. You lose that, and now you expect somebody to step in and be that role. I don't know who that guy is.
You don't know who that guy is?
I haven't seen it out of Ruben yet.
Ruben looks like a 50-year-old man.
He looks like it, but we don't know how he is as a communicator. In the huddle, we don't know how he is as a communicator on the field. Raw talent-wise, he's the most talented linebacker in that group, and that's saying something because they got some big 5-star monsters coming in. But that's the only concern I have with me is the youth and gutting your leadership in Chance Campbell.
Yeah, and we've seen some with Jennings and the transfer from Michigan. There might be some injury issues, so we don't know. They don't ever tell us anything till the day of the games. What's going on with that? So you might not have all of our transfers for linebacker core, but
go ahead, James.
I think your game that you're getting lost on is Rutgers. I think that's your trap game or hiccup.
Could be. Rutgers definitely played
step.
a lot. Yeah, they played very well last year. They're getting in some good recruits. So, yeah, Rutgers is not going to be the doormat that they've been over the past few years in the Big Ten. They're definitely a much better football team.
Yeah, I only marked the 2 U wins as Howard and Kent State.
Yeah, so, but if I'm picking my 6, I'm counting Rutgers in that 6 to get there.
And if you lose to Rutgers, then you throw in Penn State or Michigan. Like one of those could be beat also.
Right. But Penn State, I mean, it was a rough year. Didn't a lot of guys at Penn State opt out? Right. So if that's going to be the big question mark is what guys are going to use the extra year of eligibility at some of these bigger name schools, and then turning around and saying, okay, are the guys that they're getting as recruits, are they going to play or are they going to opt out? Because let's not sugarcoat it. We lost 59-0 to Penn State, and they had some guys that didn't even play the season.
Didn't play that season? When we lost, we beat Penn State this year with the opt-out. So 59-0 was the
59-0 was
I was looking at the wrong one.
But I
was looking at the wrong one.
We didn't score a touchdown against them for like 3 straight years. But I mean, honestly, when you look at the overall, not the overall record, because that's what Penn State leans on. Penn State likes to talk about those 1901 wins over Maryland that nobody cares about. But the last 30 years, Maryland is like 3 games below 500, and 2 of them were 1-score games. Like it's not as bad as it looks. We went on a bad run when we were bad.
Right.
I'm not saying that Penn State's going to be our whipping boy ever. They are a top-tier program. But if it's not 40-60 for the rest of the time, I'd be surprised.
I agree with that. All right, so 6 wins gets us at a 500 season if we play 12 games, 6-6. So speaking of 500, let's switch over to the basketball squad.
That's what we do.
Talk about 500. We got a team sitting at 10-10 now on the year as the Terps Hoop Squad loses another one to Ohio State. Another game that just was embarrassing. It was an embarrassing loss. They played like crap. Ohio State ran the court, had fun against us. It just, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to understand this team. They're so streaky. I mean, they've got talent. They don't have the size down low that they need. They don't have the athleticism and the size down low that they need. We know that that's a glaring issue. But when you've got pieces like Eric Ayala and Aaron Wiggins, 2 guys that when they put their effort forward, man, they're some of the best guys on the floor, not just for Maryland, but on the floor. But then they just kind of fall to the wayside. They can't hit a shot to save their lives, or they just don't seem as engaged or don't seem involved. You don't get the consistent play out of them. What do you think's going on with these guys?
I don't know. I think that you just sounded a lot closer to the Fire Turge crowd than I am on that game.
I'm not Fire Turge by any means, because I don't know who you're replacing Turge with.
I just wasn't embarrassed by that game. That's kind of my thoughts. Like, we were up 12 at the under 8 mark in the first half. We were playing well both offensively and defensively.
Then they went on like a 18 run.
Yeah, they had 14 minutes. They scored 1 point on Eric Ayala's technical foul. It was an absolute disaster. But defensively, they never really let up. The Ohio State was pulling away because they could not miss. They were hitting like 40-footers and pulling up and doing whatever they felt like. It wasn't like we were getting lost. They weren't wide open takes. I mean, there was a little bit of wide open early, but that was when we were ahead, really. By the time they started pulling away, those were contested threes that were dropping.
Right.
We didn't quite get bullied in the inside like I thought we would. In fact, most of our success was on the inside. We had this really weird, like, underneath passes to Daryl Morcell or Dante Scott, where they would basically catch the ball behind the backboard and score just constantly. There was a play they were running, depending on that.
Right.
I do think that offensively, your transfer from Boston College, I can't remember his name right now.
Jarius Hamilton?
Hamilton, yeah. He seems to have no idea what the offense is. Every time he catches the ball, he either just immediately passes it back to who passed it to him, or he launches a 3. Right. That doesn't seem to have any concept of where it's going next. And maybe that's true. I don't know.
How much of that do you attribute to not having a true like court general out there? Like, I don't see any of these guys as a true court general as Cowan, more so was.
I mean, I do think that, as we've talked before, this generation of people, it is really hard for everything to come from coach. It's really hard to be the Bobby Knight that yells and screams and cusses till you get it. There's got to be some pure accountability. We all heard last year that the Twins basically walked out after Anthony Cowan put them in their place and told them, this is my team and you're going to do it this way and not act this way in practice. And they're like, I'm going home.
Taking my ball and going home.
So, yeah, obviously Daryl Morcell is not scared to talk to anybody. I'm sure there's some leadership going on there, but Daryl Morcell doesn't quite have the clout and the expertise that an Anthony Cowan or a Sticks Melo Trillo is going to bring. They're not, in all of your talent. They're peers.
Right.
So that becomes more difficult. I I think that defensively, though, this team is impressive. I don't think we should be a 500 team. I think that we have no big man at all.
That's what I was going to ask you is like, help me make sense of this, because right now they sit at 10-10 on the year, and I haven't seen this team be a 500 team like this late in the season in many years. It's been a long time. But then on the flip side of that, you're talking about a team that's got 4 wins against ranked teams, which if it's not the most in NCAA, it's one of the most in the league. And again, this is coming from a team that's 10-10 on the year. 4 of those wins are against top 25 teams. I don't understand it. Like,
and nearly all the losses. Now, I will give credit to Penn State. We shouldn't have lost the Penn State game. That is a little embarrassing. I saw a comment on Twitter, which kind of got to me and makes sense. Penn State seems to be to us what we were to Duke. We overlook Penn State constantly because they're supposed to win that game, and they play us like it's their fucking Super Bowl. Like, there was not a second. That game, again, like, defensively we played well, but they played even better. Like, there was not an inch. I don't know how they dribbled the ball the whole game because there was just this constant pressure. And it reminded me of back in the day of Maryland Duke, where we were just like, this is the day that I leave my soul in this court, and we would win the games that we had no business winning.
Right.
And they've done that to us, 3 years in a row? How do we not look at it now? But, again, Duke never figured it out either for Maryland because they didn't give a shit about us. Right. They played UNC and they cared. They played North Carolina State and they cared, and they never cared about us at all. Right. And so they just didn't realize what this was. And no matter how much the coach tells you what it is, that's not what you hear all day long, all year long. So.
And I'm not trying to throw this out there as an excuse, but I'm asking you because I want to know if you think it's a real factor. But I know it's affecting everybody in some way. But, I mean, do you think the consistency with this team and the lack thereof, like you said, some of the things that just aren't explainable, Jarius Hamilton not really understanding the offense and just passing the ball when he gets it or shooting up threes, do you think any of this has to do with COVID and maybe some of the lack of practices that they've had, or the lack of team activities that they've had, or just the changes, I guess, in the way that they've had the practice?
I mean, I think there's definitely a lack of consistency with the practices. And with Jarius Hamilton, we didn't get his waiver till super late, so I'm not sure how that works out. Like, all he could do when we weren't ready for his waiver was, like, look at a playbook. Right. And unless you're running through a playbook, X and O's, some people don't mean anything. Right. Like, even at this level. So he didn't get cleared till, I don't say, a couple weeks before the season. We thought we were going to be even thinner in the big man position, which he has not been a forward. I don't know what we thought we were getting a forward out of him, but I think we were just hoping because we had no big man he'd be a forward. He's like a stretch 4 to 3 at this point. Just another 3. We got threes raining. We have 3 players raining from the ceiling, but we can't hit a 3. I don't understand.
Well, I'm going to sum it up like this then. Sitting at 10-10, again, they've won 4 games against ranked teams. Is this team a tournament team?
I mean, the problem is rankings are really difficult this year. We didn't get to see a single crossover play. So the Big Ten could all be great, or they could all be terrible because we all just keep beating the crap out of each other.
Right.
The ACC the same way. You didn't get to see the off-season or out-of-conference schedule that really clears up. In football, it's always a little wishy-washy. Who's better than who? But in basketball, it's pretty clear. Like, this league beat that league 10 times. And so this league is better.
Right.
Like, without the crossovers, how do you say that? So are we a top 5 team in the Big Ten? No. Is the Big Ten so much better than every other conference that we get 8 to 9 teams
that's
in?
That's what people were saying, that there could be 8 teams from the Big Ten that make the tournament this year.
And our schedule lightens up a lot coming here. Like you said, we were playing teams that were ranked in the top 25, 6 out of the last 8 games, I think. Yeah. And pretty much everybody that beat us has continued to win and are moved even further up. We played at number 24 or 21 Wisconsin. It's now number 14 in the nation.
You had Wisconsin, you had Purdue, you had Ohio State, then you had the sloppy game against Penn State. That's a tough 4-game stretch.
And if you take these rankings seriously, like Ohio State was number 4 in the nation. Why is everybody so bent out of shape that we got beat by the number 4 team in the nation? Did anyone think that without a big man and without a senior guard that we were going to be a number 4 team in the nation? No, we're like a number 30 to 45 team in the nation, which if you look at what the tournament is, that should put you in, but sometimes it doesn't. because of all the other lower conferences that get into the tournament.
So I know that Turge had some comments especially over the last game, and he's had a few throughout. One of the things I wanted to bring up, I did a little research on this. This team has given up more than 65 points 9 times this year. 7 of those were losses.
That's all we got. We're one of the best defensive teams in the nation,
right?
But that's all we got.
But my thought and my question to you is, what are your thoughts on this team's inability to match scoring when it matters in those bigger games? That kind of leads to the tournament, right? They're not going to be able to go far in the tournament if you can't match scoring. You can play defensive ball all you want, but when it comes down to it and you're playing these tough teams, it goes to those ranked games, you're not going to get very far.
You're not going to go far in the tournament because we didn't build that team.
It's been my problem with this team all year is the inconsistency in shooting the basketball. They go through streaks and droughts like no other team I've ever seen before. I don't know how many games. There's always a drought where they go 0 for 8, 0 for 10. There's always somewhere, and it's either usually in the very beginning of the game or it's very late in the games, and it's like that middle stretch where they seem to play okay.
You mean like the last 10 minutes of the Penn State game?
Exactly.
Where it was like
they were like
0 for 10. 7 minutes, they were 0 for 10.
Yeah. The last 8 minutes of the first half has been a nightmare for us in pretty much every game, and I don't understand what that is.
It's just it's these lulls. They get stuck in these lulls, and when one guy starts shooting bad, everybody starts shooting
You really
bad.
only have 3 people that can shoot with Dante Scott, Eric Ayala, and Wiggins, and Dante Scott's playing your 4. So how is he supposed to be out there shooting for you? Like we're out of position there. And if he was your 3 where he should be, then maybe it would be a better situation. And Wiggins just.
You think Dante Scott should be a 3?
I think if
I don't think his body
team,
says he's
on
a
this
3.
team.
I think that if you got Bruno and Sticks, Dante's your 3. I mean,
I think Dante's a rotational 4-5. If you got Sticks and Bruno here, I don't think Dante. Listen, he's okay at shooting the ball from 3. He's got good range. He's just not that typical stretch which you see in the college game right now. He's not an athletic guy by any means.
But yet he's one of our top shooters.
Yeah, he's a good spot up shooter. Okay,
yes, we need to play him inside. But he's good at playing inside. He was great at that. Finding space under the basket this last game.
Right.
But when you need shots, he's one of your top options.
So, a guy that hasn't been taking a lot of shots, or when he has, it hasn't been the greatest. He's been questioned by Turge at times. Obviously, some news coming out this week with Daryl Morcell.
Daryl Morcell, he gets put in a spot to be a shooter, but that's never who he was, and it's unfortunate that we're in that situation. Daryl Morcell is a clutch player in every sense of the word, but that's not his game. Like, he's hit huge, big shots, which makes you think that he's a shooter, but those are just random.
Right.
That's because he is that dog that refuses to lose. Like, you want Daryl Morcell on your team when you're up 3 points. That's when you want Daryl Morcell on your team. You want to send them to shut that team down. I mean, he's one of the best defenders Maryland's ever had. And you see the frustration with him in this team because, I think he wants this to be his last year, but he doesn't want to go out like this. You just see he got a technical foul in the Ohio State game, tossing his mask to the ground.
Right.
Both frustrated with his own team and frustrated that, how have I played basketball for 3 years with no injuries, and now you broke my orbital bone 3 weeks ago and you gashed my eyebrow open this game.
Right.
It's been a hot mess.
Well, off the court, though, he is getting some recognition. So not all things are going bad for Daryl Morcell as he gets recognized for a candidate for an award.
Yeah, this senior class award.
Yeah, senior class
so
award.
that's for contributions both in the classroom and in the community as well as the basketball. And you can't question that. The kid is from Baltimore. He's been a great representative of Baltimore.
High character guy.
I think he wants to do good things. He's showed a lot of leadership.
Yep.
And hopefully he gets to, whether it's next year or the year after, he gets to make some money from this basketball thing and do some things for his neighborhood.
Speaking of making money, right? University of Maryland announced just recently that they're launching their new program called Momentum. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that means for the university and what it means for the players moving forward.
Well, first of all, it means Maryland's embracing this name, image, likeness era that we're entering. They're not going to fight it. They have made that pretty clear that they're a very forward institution they would like to be playing the players, which is interesting because we don't have the pockets that some of these
Right.
places do. So name, image, likeness is not direct payments from the school. It is to get endorsements because you're in the school. So if we wanted to pay somebody to advertise Show and Tell, we could.
Right.
At this point, we cannot because we're not getting people kicked out of school. Momentum is basically a set of things they've put into place, whether it's classes about social media or this Open Doors, which is a company that leads to basically your social media presence and showing you how to make deals for yourself and money for yourself.
Basically branding yourself, right?
Yeah.
What
Brand
a lot of these
improvement.
guys are coming out of college, some of them I think, have been taken under the wing by some good agents. And now I think it's great that the Terps are endorsing, you know what? Let's give these kids a class and teach them how to do this the right way.
They're one of 20 schools that are kind of embracing this whole thing?
Yeah, they're in the first 20 schools to sign up for this Open Doors, and schools like Clemson, Florida, Nebraska, Indiana, Louisville. They've been
Steve loves Louisville.
So we've been embracing this, and I think it's be good. It's open to all. This is not a football basketball thing. This is
right.
All of their
athletics.
student athletes will be getting the experience of this. Be looking forward to this, and you see that there really are opportunities, especially at Maryland, for say lacrosse or soccer that local endorsements, because they're such big sports in youth and such big things that they really could end up making, a decent, income while they're in college just on local small endorsements.
And I think that this is going to bode well for recruiting as well. Obviously, if you're one of 20 schools that's embracing this program that could potentially help benefit these kids financially.
I mean, the Big Ten's got to be on board with this. Basically, the whole case for name, image, likeness started with Northwestern doing the student union that went all the way to the Supreme Court to see if the students could unionize from athletes. So the Big Ten's got to be on board. So Maryland's just getting ahead of the curve and making sure that we can openly do this and have things in place for when we are ready, set, go.
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of the Big Ten, there were Big Ten votes on relocating the tournament this week.
Yeah, the Big Ten tournament will now be moved to Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis.
So they're going to the Combine.
They opened up some space that wasn't available. So the big thing with
Keep
this...
the dick in the pants.
Oh, God.
That's all for Kaylee. That's all for Kaylee.
Well, Ricky Lindo has moved on, so I don't think we'll be anything swinging from pants.
I don't know. You may have set a new precedent. Maybe somebody else comes out this year.
You got those.
Junk tucked in.
The Ricky Lindo short shorts have graduated on from us. But basically, what they're saying is that the women's tournament was already there. They're trying to keep all of their testing and resources in one area and be able to make sure that they can do this safely in a bubble-like atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it's smart. You gotta listen. If you don't think that you see light at the end of the tunnel with this whole thing, you need to be ahead of the curve and planning this early, which is what they didn't do last year. Is the right move.
I think they learned from their mistake last year.
Exactly. You can't afford the NCAA, and none of these universities can afford to not have an NCAA tournament for sure. All right, Scott, it's time for this week's Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. They're just words, Fred. What has Jerry and the crew got us drinking today?
So this is from 2SP Brewing Company. They're actually out of Aston, PA, just a few hours away. This is their 2S Pills. It's actually, as James pointed out before the show, it's actually a lager. It's an unfiltered lager, so it has a little bit different of a taste than your normal lager that you would have from a Yingling or anything like that. It's going to have a little bit different of a taste.
Anytime something says it's unfiltered, I always expect it to be like chunks. It's unfiltered, so I feel like there's going to be something.
Feel like there's going to be chunks of hops in there.
Something.
No, so this beer at first, I wasn't sure what to think. It was it's actually been kind of growing on me as we've been drinking it throughout the show.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's 5% alcohol by volume, so it's there's a little bit of fruitiness to it. It's honestly hard to describe. I mean, any of you guys, I know you guys all kind of tasted it. Any thoughts over there from the peanut gallery?
Go ahead, Couch.
I don't have anything to add. It's good. I liked it.
I was saying, Couch finished it.
I liked it. I finished it pretty quick.
Fred knows about the unfilter. If he has like 8 of these, then the filter part comes out.
If I'm drinking something 5%, it's not going to be this.
At first,
but
you were like really not liking it. But it's growing on you.
Yeah, it's growing on me. It's not bad. It's got a little bit of an aftertaste, which is
it's hard to describe. That's what I'm saying.
It's kind of a dry aftertaste, but not bad. Again, 5%. Get up to liquor stop.
That's a great example. Like it tastes like a dry champagne aftertaste.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. Make sure you get up to liquor stop though if you want to pick up some of this two spills, 2S pills, however you want to say this. Tell them Fred, Scott, Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. All right, Scott, so there's not a whole lot going on in Birdland.
Nah, we're going to run through this pretty quick.
Not a whole lot going on, but I think the big topic right now that's got fans, quote-unquote fans, all up in arms about what's going on with the Orioles right now. The Orioles end up signing a new lease with the Maryland Stadium Authority. Problem is, this lease is only for 2 years. So a lot of people are thinking, why are we signing such a short lease? This is just a 2-year buy until they're moving to Nashville, until they're moving to Montreal, wherever the fuck they're going. People are up in arms thinking that the Orioles aren't going to be around here much longer.
So here's the interesting curveball in this whole story. See what I did there?
Nope, missed it. Can't hit the curve.
He
All right, Pedro.
crushed it.
Yeah, he didn't crush it, that's for sure. The Orioles, in this whole scenario, have the option for a 5-year extension, but it's got to be made by February 1st of 2023, right?
So that's
a
an
2-year.
Orioles
It is
option.
It is an organization option
Yeah.
to exercise. So I think that's where like the question marks for people are coming in is why would the Orioles need an option? Why would the Orioles want an option? And it truly honestly got me thinking. Normally, I think it would be the stadium authority that would be the option. Are you bringing enough revenue? Is it enough that we can support and justify us continuing to lease to you instead of turning it into something else? Right? Some type of other venue. Because we've all talked about it could be another venue. The problem is there's a lot going on. So I think the 2-year gets you through this year with potential another year of COVID and then settles up for next year. And then for there, if it's still iffy, the Ravens can exercise the Orioles can exercise that option.
That's exactly what it is, and that's in my take on it as well. I think this is all the whole 2-year thing stems from the uncertainty of what the future is going to look like with COVID and for the Orioles and for Major League Baseball in general. This 2 years had to be signed. They had to get a deal in place. They didn't want to sign anything, both the Orioles or the Maryland Stadium Authority, long-term. This is probably...
the Stadium Authority wanted a long-term deal.
Yeah, but on a much richer deal than what the Orioles want to
Yeah.
pay because they just don't know how things are going to pan out.
Don't you mean they don't know how long Angelos is going to be alive?
And that too. So I think that this is just a stopgap to protect both parties involved to see what happens in 2 years. They'll revisit things, and if things are looking positive and this is a team-friendly deal for the Orioles are going to sign that extension to take that 5 years, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But
if fans are allowed in later this year and people are itching to get out, right? People are itching to go to game. This is the 1 year the Orioles can be bad and people will show up.
Listen, the Orioles are not going anywhere. 100%, I don't have any inside information or anything like that. I'm not in the Angelos right pocket or anything like that. But
if you're in the Angelos right pocket, you better be sharing.
The Orioles are not going anywhere. Camden Yards will have baseball in it in its future. But you know what? If you're so concerned as fans, get the fuck out there and support your team, win, lose, or draw when you're allowed to. Get out there and buy the jerseys. Get out there and spend the money on the hot dogs. Get out there and spend money on the seats. Be a part of it. Again, you have to embrace what's going on with this club. We talked about it a little bit, last week with how this team in this market, this type of team without a salary cap, this is the cycle. This is the cycle that this team is going to go through. They're going to have stretches of 3 to 5 years where they're going to be competitive. If all things go well and their farm system works out, 3 to 5 years where they're going to be competitive, and then a couple of years where they're going to have to retool. The problem that the Orioles have had in the past and why it's taken so long right now is because they haven't had the talent in the minor league system. 1, because they weren't drafting well. 2, because they weren't developing well. Well, we are changing all of that. We're changing the player development. We're changing the coaching. We're changing everything about that. So let the process happen. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the game for what it is, and forget wins and losses for a little while. They will come. They will come again.
Build it, and they will.
They will come.
Yeah, no, like I look at this and I say, look, I understand. We talked about this last week, right? I get fans' hesitation, right, with everything. And I thought that it was funny because the Orioles this past week put out the video of it was a really well done video. It was like all camera shots, except for the actual hit. It was all camera shots from fans of the Delman Young hit.
I get chills every single time,
right?
Every single time, never fails.
The chills really hit this time on the video that when they show it. It's a fan video.
Oh, I've seen it
up in the tower in the hotel, like blocks away, and you hear it. I know the area. I know how far that hotel. It's over at like the Holiday Inn / Sheraton.
Right.
That's over there. It's a few blocks away. And it rattles. These people could feel it in their chest.
I have been to so many big games in my life, and I'm talking baseball, football, basketball. I've been to University of Maryland when Maryland was playing Duke back in the 90s, and Cole Fieldhouse was rocking. I've never been to an environment like that. And this is an outdoor stadium, not a dome, an open environment, just everything. I mean, if you wanted to stand still during that moment, you couldn't. Like, the stadium shook. It took your breath away.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
But what's funny in this video...
It would have been a freaking World Series game. Crazy.
Yeah, in this video... Okay, it would have been louder.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus. But no, in this video, it's funny because they're doing, like, fan interviews in the background, like during them playing it. And one of the fans says, Baltimore is a baseball town when we're winning. And when we're winning... we show up like this, right? And that's where it's like so frustrating to us as more than average fans is that we're like, when we're winning, you should be there. When we're not winning, you should be there. You should support your team. The problem is people don't want to spend where every dollar counts nowadays. People don't want to spend hard-earned money to see a bad product.
I get that.
And I get it. And that's, you and I are different, right? Ryan is a prime example. Ryan, I'm gonna bring it out, right? You're not willing to necessarily spend it if it's not a game that matters or means something because you're not that bought into the Orioles as a franchise, as a team.
Yeah, to me, when the Orioles are losing, I still go probably to 3 to 4 games a year.
Out of those 3 or 4 games, how many do you actually pay for?
No, all of them.
You pay for those 3 or 4 game tickets? Somebody didn't just give them to you and say,
hey. I don't have any Orioles hookups. As easy as Orioles.
Jesus Christ, you don't even have to have a hookup. All you got to do is say, I want to go to an Oriole game on Facebook, and somebody will give you tickets. I will say
there were a few years where there was a ticket taker that used to scan some blank papers, but it's been a while. No, but they're not expensive games to go to. I'm not losing my mind over it. It's something to do. It's almost a secondary thing. Like, I'm going with a group of people. I'm not sitting there with just me and Kaylee watching an Orioles game. It's a group of people going to do an event, some nice weather, some background entertainment. It's like turning the TV on while you're hanging out. Like,
let me ask
a little better than
background noise.
So I'm gonna ask you somewhat of a loaded question. If the Orioles started winning, turned into a winning franchise, 4 years in a row, they are in the playoffs and truly in the hunt for a World Series run.
Wasn't that long ago.
I would change my schedule to go to a few games.
And would you be more involved, more actively paying attention to the game because they're winning?
I mean, I do a pretty good job of staying actively paying attention when I'm at the game. But yes, the people I'm with are usually not.
But then when you're not there, you think you pay attention a little bit more if they're more of a winning franchise?
Baseball on TV has never. I would probably triple the amount of games I go to and still barely watch on television.
Okay.
Like, when I turn a game on TV, I watch it for 2 to 3 innings and I'm kind of done. Unless it's a great game. Like, there was the one game that against the Texans that went to like the 21st inning. Chris Davis is pitching and shit.
Texans?
That was Boston. No, it was the Boston Red Sox where he pitched into like the 17th inning. It was in Boston.
Didn't we go to deep with the Rangers too? I swear it was a Texas team.
No, the Rangers kill us 30-0 every Why you gotta bring that shit up?
I don't know. Anyway, there was some game where I stayed up till like 1 a.m. watching this 21-game monster, and I was excited the whole time. So there is every once in a while a game that grabs me, but baseball on TV doesn't do it for me. I don't know why.
Go ahead, James.
The thing about baseball, it's an older sport. Like, people don't appreciate it, but it's a way to go if you have. And my stepfather took me to my first baseball game. Like, my dad, he wasn't into sports. He was old school, didn't have anything growing up. But I thank my stepfather for getting me out there, throwing the football, throwing the baseball, starting to play sports. But he took me to a baseball game, and it's a sport besides like basketball and football where you can actually sit down and explain to your son or daughter what's going on, and have that one-on-one with your son or daughter that enjoys softball or baseball. Because they can play anything nowadays. But it's a good time, but you can also go out with your friends and have a good time. And it's really not that pricey at all.
It's sad. Baseball in general just isn't as prevalent with kids and the younger generation that it once was. And I saw this years ago. So growing up playing Little League Baseball, I grew up playing Middle River. Back in every age group, we at least had 10 to 14 teams per age group, right? So when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I was dating a girl who had a young son. We put him into rec baseball, same rec council. They could barely field 4 teams per age group.
Yep.
Like, that's how much interest at a youth, and this is almost 10 years ago now, so I can only imagine what it is now. You don't see kids out in the back, of schools playing baseball anymore. You don't see kids in the street throwing ground balls or hitting the ball, breaking their neighbors' windows with tennis balls or whatever. You don't see that shit going on anymore.
No,
kids just don't do it.
And so the other part to that is also the struggle to find coaches, right? I signed my son up for baseball pre-COVID, right? And we asked him, we gave him choice of a bunch of different things. That's what he wanted to do. So I was like, all right, I'm going to support it. I'll be all for it either way.
Right.
But they were struggling to find coaches. Right? If you don't have a coach, they can't field the team. They got to split the kids up and do 4 teams versus doing 6 teams. So it definitely comes out. Where I've really, truly seen this take a turn, right? Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, LeBron James.
Kyler Murray,
right? These are guys that played baseball, and 3 of the 4 could have played professionally. They could be starters in MLB
2 of which
today.
were drafted.
Are you taking LeBron out of that? LeBron could do whatever he wanted. He just chose basketball.
Yes, I am taking LeBron out
He's
of
going to play in the NFL,
the point
MLB, MLS.
The point is, these guys all chose other professional sports in a sport against a sport that doesn't have a salary cap.
Because they could get paid earlier and have more guaranteed money sooner.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it comes down to.
And better endorsements.
Yeah, well, yeah, to an extent. I mean, there's some endorsement deals as far as out there, like
nothing like the NBA, nothing like the
NBA.
No,
crazy.
but the NBA,
are there endorsement deals? Yes, but not to that
but
level.
the NBA, the endorsement deals as in a singular fashion, yes, NBA, NFL, much greater. As an overall product, you see some of these endorsement deals for some of these MLB players. They've got 4 and 5 endorsement deals that are paying just as much as the 1 endorsement deal that this guy over here is getting.
Yeah,
right?
But those guys also have 4 and 5 or endorsement deals.
They have to, but they have to watch it.
It takes
some of the MLB.
It takes
don't
so
have to.
much to be a national star in baseball.
It does.
There just really isn't any. I mean, there's no LeBron James of baseball. There isn't.
It's Mike Trout, but Mike
Trout
Trout himself doesn't want the marketability.
No, he told baseball he does not want to be the face
Mike
of
Trout
baseball.
is the modern day Bo Jackson.
Call Kaylee and ask her who Mike Trout is. That's the thing, is that the person that's not a fan of sports has no idea who Mike Trout is. But everyone knows who LeBron James is.
Mike Trout's going to be the weatherman for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But I get your point. It's just sad because this is a baseball town, and it has been a baseball town, and just a couple years ago showed how much support this team can get
when they're winning.
When they're winning.
And that was my point.
If you're a fan of baseball, you show up. I don't want to hear like, oh, they're not winning. Like, if you love baseball in general, the team that's coming in, you can still enjoy it and just get out there and have a good time.
But
I'm just tired of the fan.
There's a difference between us and
Appreciate it, Multan.
and the other fans.
He was signing off.
Yeah. it's a difference between us and the other fans. We are baseball fans, first and foremost, Orioles and then baseball, right? Whatever order you want to put it in. There's a lot of fans out there that are just Orioles fans. They're not fans of baseball. And I get what you're saying, but when you're marketing and you're doing things, you do them to the majority. And unfortunately, the four of us, are not the majority. He's the majority.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Am I wrong or
no? You're 100% right.
And I'll do you one better. He's actually not even the majority because at least he cares a little bit more than the majority would care.
But no, he doesn't. He just sat here and said.
But I go to games when it's a bad season, and there's a majority of people don't do that.
The other thing you have to factor in when you're comparing basketball to baseball is these basketball arenas are 25,000 capacity arenas. You're talking about baseball, which is more than double that.
35.
You know, so even when the stadium is half full and it looks pathetic because it's only half full. I'm not talking about the Orioles because the Orioles can't fill it.
What the Orioles have been pulling would look pathetic in those arenas
right now. What the Orioles are performing, yes, agreed, but not the general average across memo.
So the other two things I did want to hit on real quick. Santander,
speaking of saving money,
quote unquote, loses in arbitration in his first time eligibility. He was on a salary of $572,500 last season. He was looking for 2.475, and he lost, but got 2.1.
Yeah.
Remember what I was saying last week about these players just wanting too much effing money? Like, I love Santander.
That's the whole purpose of this arbitration process, though, is
meet in the middle,
shoot for the stars, land on the moon.
Oh no, but like that. Look, I agree with you, but his value in what he's done, my opinion, it's still below 2.1.
I don't know. I don't know what the benchmark is for 2.1 versus 2.5.
Somebody's got $50 million to be a pitcher. So I mean, what's $2 million?
Yeah, right.
Now we meet.
You're pissing away $2.1 million every time Chris Davis comes up to the plate. So I mean,
yeah, this is true.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is I heard on 105.7 they were talking about this extension thing. So the 2-year lock-in, 5-year extension. The reasoning they had put out was that the Orioles are looking towards this downtown area that we all saw that was in the works before COVID of the development between the casino and the stadiums, and that they wanted something to twist the stadium's arm, that if you vote a certain way on this project, then we'll sign our extension, that kind of thing. And I do drive by the stadium every day, and it is interesting how much wasted space and weirdness there's going on when there's not a game. Like, there are temporary permanent stanchions. Like, it's always there, but they're just these temporary metal stanchions and red and white plastic barriers shutting down the roadway that intersects Utah Street. There's all these weird things that are just like, they just look just thrown around, just making the area. If you develop that area for a purpose, like we've obviously decided cars don't get to go here. So like develop something for like fan interactions, restaurants, eateries outside the stadium. Bring more people down there on a daily basis.
You talking out by the hotel?
Yeah,
you're talking about by the casino.
You know,
they're developing that whole area.
But on the other side, so what I'm talking about with the weird stanchions and everything.
He's talking about the left field where it meets Utah.
Pickles?
Out by in between Pickles and the Hilton Hotel that's out there.
Left field, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's funny is if you go back 2.5-3 years ago, it wasn't the Orioles. It wasn't the stadium authority. It was the hotel. The hotel is the one that wanted that street shut down because they wanted the access and be able to do things out there and not have cars rolling by all the time, right? Yeah. They want that outside area for seating and food because right there is their bar. It's their restaurant. They're the ones that were stopping everything. So if you go back 2 or 3 years, that was the case. Is that still the case? Maybe not. Maybe it's the Orioles, maybe it's the stadium authority. But there was also a lot of construction on that road that was a constant problem.
Yeah.
Right? So it's...
And like Fred said, there is also the whole other side going towards the Ravens Stadium and everything where they're planning on basically rooftop parking and like street level bars and restaurants and experiences.
That whole downtown area near the stadiums there, they're talking about a huge project down there.
Yeah, well, we'll see if COVID completely shut it down forever or not.
Right, yeah, we'll see. So Nick brings up another good point. He says, cut the cost of beer and attendance goes up. And I think if you are trying to drive home a message of, hey, yeah, we're rebuilding, and this isn't going to be a pretty sight to watch, but come have a good time, come drink, come eat, come have, you are trying to make it more of an experience and not just watching the game. That is a way to do it. I'll tell you, I'd love to know the numbers on how many more beers are now sold at the Ravens game, how many more hot dogs are now consumed at the Ravens game, because the Ravens made a concerted effort to drop the cost of all that stuff. And I've spent more money. I used to tailgate, yes, for the experience, but specifically I would eat and drink my share so that I didn't have to spend any money in the stadium.
If anything, you go and you spend money for a soda or something like that because you drank outside.
Right. But now if it's halftime, I want another beer, I want to extend my buzz a little bit longer, I don't think about it because the beer's a little bit cheaper and it's more affordable. I think the Orioles, Major League Baseball, should be embracing
that.
Also, the Orioles.
They've done that.
But the Orioles are so bad at business.
The last year before COVID, the prices went down.
Yeah, the prices dropped by like $1.75, and the large was literally you could fill a large and have it, which they did, and it would be the same size as a medium. Like
the thing that gets me is I've been to a lot of ballparks, especially the one in Boston, which is a phenomenal ballpark to eat at. When you buy a large souvenir cup, you get free refills.
Right.
They should have that at Camden Yards.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they need to do too, and I'll get to you in just a second, Drew, is one of the best values in the entire park is the left field picnic perch. Any of you guys ever been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's only for a concentrated amount of fans.
Right. But why not take that concept, pay a little bit higher price ticket for where I sit, right, out in left field. It fills up anyway for half the stuff that you're doing. And take some of these and have a ticket add-on. And this ticket add-on for $25, you can go to any vendor stand, you have a bracelet, however you want to do it, you take your ticket, you can get up to 4 or 5 hot dogs, you can get a few sodas, maybe it's a beer.
The point is there's plenty of ways to be more marketable, to make it more about the experience and not so much the product on the field. And I think that the Orioles need to be looking at that.
The Orioles are so bad at business that for 2 to 3 years you were allowed to bring food into the stadium. They didn't.
Still can.
I know,
Still
but last year was the first year they fucking advertised it. For 2 to 3 years, it was a secret. We're not going to tell anybody, but we won't stop you at the gate. Like, it was like a word of mouth.
You've always
thing.
been able to take food into that.
It's been like
stadium.
that for
You can't just
Not
you
always.
can't
That's
have
not true.
you can't have
No
open
joke.
containers.
It's been like that for a long time.
Since this stadium, as a season ticket holder, since 1992, when Camden Yards opened, you have always been able to bring in. My dad and I, when we go, we take a cooler of sodas. Like, why pay for a souvenir soda when it's the same thing I can get when I'm there? I'm just going to take it in. It's cheaper. We're already paying for the ticket. We do eat there, so we buy the food. I'm just not buying a soda while
But then
I'm there.
you're a prime candidate then. If you're somebody who's bringing in a cooler of sodas every week because it's cheaper, are you spending that money in the stadium if they drop the prices down and not having to haul around a cooler?
Exactly. But now there's other people that are there's people I've watched fans in my section bring entire meals in from the outside, a Subway sub, and here you go. You take half, I take half, a foot long.
So I've been doing that for the last 3 years. I had no idea what you're talking about since 1992. Maybe it's true, but again, they should have told people.
No, they're not.
I would have went to 10 more games a year.
So I'm gonna be straight with you. That is dumb as shit marketing. That is dumb as shit marketing if they're telling you, bring your food in. Don't spend your money here. Bring your food in. That's dumb as shit marketing.
Because you sell the contract to other companies and you make the money off the tickets.
But the thing, I'll throw a caveat in what you're saying is the thing is, though, especially a lot in these last few years, you brought in like the Pizza John's. You brought in a lot of local businesses, Pollock Johnny's. I'm just throwing out two. You brought in those local businesses to have a stand somewhere. If it kind of goes hand in hand. If
Pizza John's pizza's $25.
Well, like the hot dog place that had the crab mac and cheese, the crab mac and cheese hot dog. What do? They turn around, they kick them out, and then they put a crab mac and cheese hot dog that is run by Delaware North.
Yeah,
it's not even run by that company.
But the thing is, if Ryan would go to more games, they would say, "Hey, get your peanuts here because they're cheaper out here than inside."
No, exactly. The stands are who was telling you for 3 years. Then last year they go out and they're like, "Hey, we want you to come to more games, so we'll just let you know that tickets are cheaper, beers are cheaper. You can bring in your own food and have picnics."
Season ticket holders do get a discount. You get a 10% discount.
The thing now,
yeah.
But also, like, I think Also, if you buy tickets in the first base side all the way around the third base side, your ticket actually gets you a free Boots Pal sandwich.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Say it again. Say it again.
If you buy your ticket from the first base dugout, if you're sitting on the lower level, all the way around the third base, those padded seats.
100%. I've bought those seats and then paid for a Book Pal sandwich about 10 times.
The padded seats, though?
Oh, the padded seats behind them.
So it's a limited section. It's like from the right at the beginning of the dugout to the right at the beginning of the dugout.
Padded seats run
all the lower levels.
Padded seats run all the way down to the ball girl.
No, it doesn't.
No, because
it doesn't. It stops at the dugout. I mean, at the dugout.
It's literally just a little bit past the backing fence.
Because I've specifically bought tickets for the Manny Machado, like to see that right next to the dugout. Mine definitely were not.
I didn't know that though. I've sat in those seats plenty of times, but I never knew that.
Because I got free tickets, and I had 4, and only 2 people went, and I traded 2 in, and I traded all 4 of them in, and got 2 seats behind first base, and they gave me on the ticket it says free Boo Pal.
That's awesome.
Nick Short has a good comment.
Nick brought up a couple things. He said, cut the cost of beer and attendance goes up. He said, make it a minor league experience. Cheap tickets and cheap beer. I have a better time at the Bay Sox. I 100% agree with that. The problem is when you go to a minor league stadium, you don't have all these outside vendors that are selling the food. Because I'll be honest. Listen, hold on. I'll be honest. Probably for a decade or more, I have been doing exactly what we just talked about. I go to 2 stands that sit right out in front of Pickles Pub, and I fill a grocery bag of a hot dog, a hamburger, and 2 sodas, and it costs me
that sausage over there is good too.
Yeah, and it cost me less than $20 for all that, which would cost me $50 in the stadium. Yeah. And I take my bag in, I open it up, they look in, and I walk right in. And now I've got my food for the game, and I don't spend a dime when I go into the stadium. So with the minor league stadiums not having that outside, it forces you to go inside and buy it. But the pricing is right.
And maybe this is a one-off, right? But that's not true at Aberdeen. At Aberdeen, you're bringing in, you have Dippin' Dots there. You've got Pizza John's that was there for a little while, or not Pizza John's, Papa John's that was there for a little while.
Stadium.
Dippin' Dots.
Right.
But I'm talking about like the difference between major league and minor leagues. You don't have the outside influence.
That's right. But that's the difference, though, is the local. That's kind of what I think Drew was alluding to. The local businesses are what's going to draw people in. Like,
I agree with that.
I truly feel that Abby's Burger Bistro should partner and have a small stand in Camden Yards. Have you ever had a Abby's Burger Bistro burger?
Ask James though about some of the requirements that these that the Orioles hold them to as far as like production and just stats that they hold these guys to. So it's real easy to say, it's about the money, and it's real easy to say put these guys in there, but I think what they're doing as far as bringing the local restaurants in is a step in the right direction.
Right.
The next part of it is making it affordable.
Kid zones.
Making it affordable, right. They're doing things. It's been a slow process. They're doing things to make it more than just the baseball experience.
You have to adjust to be able to bring the fans back, to bring baseball back.
They need to. But money is made in volume. Yeah. It's made in opportunity. And if you don't have the fans in the seats to have the opportunity to make the money, it does you no good. So you got to attract them by bringing pricing down.
Two thoughts on this before I go on to the next thing. There's 2 things that I think could make things more affordable, especially early in the season and late in the season, and more enjoyable. 1, there is wasted space in the warehouse where they do these elaborate like buffets and things. It's a nice area. I have pictures of me looking out a window.
It's going to be a lot of space in Dempsey's there too if Dempsey's packing his bags and leaving.
Right.
We'll see.
But looking out a window and having the shot in a air controlled environment, right? Especially early and late in the season. Other thing I think needs to happen. They were on the right path with the left field picnic perch. Club level and behind and that dugout to dugout seat that you guys are talking about, those need to become more affordable. Because what's happening, and I know somebody that does it, you know them too.
Seat hoppers?
No. It's somebody that they're a season ticket holder, and they don't go to maybe but a handful of games a year.
Yeah, right.
Because what do? They take and they sell the Red Sox tickets. They sell the Yankees tickets. Here lately, we've even been getting Tampa tickets that Tampa's been showing up like crazy. Philly tickets, Mets tickets. Like, they sell those, and they pay for their entire season.
Yep.
You need to make those more affordable and put Orioles fans in those seats, right? That are going to be more regular. Where are the Orioles fans last time you went to a game? Where are the Orioles fans? They're in left field, they're in center field, they're in standing room only, or they're hopping around the bars because they got upper deck tickets and they've come down because there's nobody up there, so it's just easier to
I'm
be
in
down
center
there.
field every time.
Right, but because it's affordable, it's close to food, close to the bathroom, it's everything that your fan wants.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I agree with everything that we've all said. But the statistics that we showed last week showed the Orioles were one of the most affordable sporting events to go to in all
And if you
professional
lower the
sports.
price of those seats, it's only going to encourage even more people to buy and sell the tickets because they're not going to. You lowering the price does not change what people are willing to pay you for those seats.
Here's the difference.
Because I'll go buy
Here's the
season
difference.
tickets if it gets even cheaper.
I don't care because the ticket's getting sold either way. Right now, the ticket is not. It's affordable, but the tickets still aren't being sold. Drop it even lower. Let that happen. Let somebody go
That's why I
resell.
say
Let somebody do it.
I don't really think it's the ticket price. It's everything that goes around the ticket that I think keeps fans away from
Last year
going.
they had a season low for ticket holders.
Well, no one was there.
Preseason, it was a season low of sales for ticket holders.
Yeah.
For season ticket holders. Pre-COVID, before we even know COVID was a shit. More normally, going into spring training, they know, all right, here's how many we have. We're going to have the stragglers, and people are getting on board and seeing what's happening in spring training, and then we'll grab some more. They had a low since the stadium opened in 92. You have to get people in there, and the first way to do that is say, I don't care where you sit. Here's a $5 every Friday night game. $5. Find a seat.
The best thing in the city is the Oriole game. Like, as somebody that doesn't go to Oriole games, I still really miss them. I literally would take every lunch break when there was an Oriole game.
I remember.
And when the Orioles were in town and I was at work, I would take a lunch break,
In fact-
walk down to the stadium. I would buy food from the same stands Fred's buying to go into the stadium, and I would eat it while I'm walking back to the hospital.
I'm 90%
I miss it so much.
I'm 90% sure I took you to a game, and he came on his lunch break and
Yeah,
sat.
sure.
He bought a ticket, came and sat in the seats for a few
Sounds like
minutes,
something Ryan would do.
Yeah.
and then left.
And I've talked to them before too. Like, I wish you could buy an upper right field ticket for $5 so that I could just go watch batting practice. Because I would have loved to buy a sausage, watch 10 minutes of batting practice for $5, and
Maybe
bail.
catch a ball, yeah.
Like, that would be great to me because somehow I swear they've reversed this. I used to see batting practice as a kid when I guess they batted second on batting practice. Now I'm not going to the stadium 2.5 hours early to watch batting practice.
You will never see the
It's
Orioles.
insane.
You will never see the Orioles do batting practice unless you're a season ticket holder.
I get there. There are times I've gotten there and they're finishing up, and they just opened the gates and they're finishing up.
And that's embarrassing.
Right,
I don't
it's poor.
understand that. That was some of the most fun times as a child I can remember is seeing batting practice.
Well, that's,
Well,
Yeah,
it's still there from a visiting team standpoint. You can still
I don't
get
care
in there.
about them.
I know.
I'm the
If
fan
you wanna
that Scott said. I'm not a baseball fan. I'm an Orioles fan.
Right.
I tell you what,
we have to. I'm not kidding. We have to cater to the Ryans.
Cater to the
of
dumb
of
people.
Baltimore.
I agree with
I
you.
tell you what,
Go ahead, James.
Dempsey's Pub isn't there. We could call it Birdland's Pub.
I'm
You
for
could
it.
bartend, and we have the pickle shot Scott over there.
Oh,
we can,
pickle shot,
everybody
yeah.
can have their own shot.
I
and,
promise you I can make better food. That's the worst food in Baltimore City.
I'll make
Dempsey's
the
Pub,
food.
go.
Wow.
See you
No,
later.
They got
I
good
never
food.
called
Terrible
it.
food.
They got good food.
Terrible food.
They got good food, and the price ain't that
Some-
bad. But
Price
I'll-
not bad. I'll give you
I'll
that.
make
But
the
bad
menu.
food.
Wow.
We got the cook at the back of the house. We got
we'll
the
do it all.
bathroom attendant.
And we'll have Fred and Ryan bartending. You know,
All right. So on a positive note, spring training's around the corner, guys. Hey, let's get excited.
Pitchers and catchers report next week. Full squad reports on the 22nd.
man.
Opening game is in Boston, April 1st, and then true Orioles opening day will be
Is in
April
2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
3
won't.
years from now.
We probably won't see opening day this year. I hope Pickles does something. I really do. They're gonna have to fight the city for it. Like you're gonna. Here's the deal.
Let's just say that
I
Michaels
say-
has not slowed down during any of this.
Yeah, I say we start something on social media. We start something on Twitter. We get everybody to say, screw it. If they're not having us in there, we're going down there regardless, and we're going to make an opening day experience out of this whole thing.
I'm not going to lie. You could find like 10,000 people to show up.
100% I could. That place is, it's like a fucking holiday down there.
It is.
Opening day is
There's people that go
like
down there
Christmas
and never
for
go
me.
into the stadium.
yeah. Yeah.
We could.
That's me every game.
That's something that starts at, I literally get down there 8:30 a.m. every year. Game doesn't start until 3 o'clock. I have been drunk, sober, and then drunk again by the time the game is started. And then I'm sober by the time the night goes on, and then Ryan wants to take me to some restaurant with a weird girl. But whatever. After that, I have a good time.
then there was also the same time that Ryan had the penis on his shirt.
I've had girls throw up during the national anthem. It's wonderful, and I miss it.
Didn't sound great at all.
Oh, man.
We will have opening
Fred's
day.
not in charge of publicity for opening day. Let's put it that way. Alex Duvall, yes, Dempsey's is still there, but with all the firings, he said that he was considering leaving.
Yeah.
Bye, Dempsey.
Which is crazy considering the money that they dumped into the sign.
Yeah.
Right? The sign that's like glued, a permanent fixture on the warehouse at this point.
Yeah.
Jeez. Ah, man.
All right, man, it's time for the rundown, and we're going to make this a rundown. Let's make this quick because we have been going way too long on some of these things. We haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. Got to talk about this.
Keep it quick, boys.
Shit game of a Super Bowl that we had as the Buccaneers ended up wiping the floor with the Kansas City Chiefs. You guys called it. 3 of you said Bucs were going to win. 3 of us had the Chiefs winning. Bucs defense dominated in this game. Now, granted, Chiefs offensive line had one of their starters out there, so we knew that was going to be a problem going into this game. We just didn't realize how much of an impact it was going to have.
I did.
But Patrick Mahomes ran for almost 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's the most yardage that they have tracked for a quarterback this entire season. He was running for his life.
He was getting killed. I mean, Shaq Barrett.
All over the field.
God, if he didn't increase his value
Every
in this
time
game.
I watch him, he is a factor. Every time I watch him. I know we talked to Chibs earlier, and he wants to, keep Yannick. But if somehow we can get a Shaq Barrett for the same type of money for Yannick, man, I'm listening because that guy is an impact.
Oh, hell
player.
yeah! If you're paying this, if you're paying the same, and you can get Shaq, I'm taking Shaq over Yannick based on Yannick's performance last year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Bucs do because they've got a lot of decisions that they got to make with free agents and salary cap and all that stuff, just like everybody else does. But
At this point, like Gronk and some of those guys, I know some of those guys have made, they've made their money. Oh no, I could see reworking with some contracts.
could. I mean,
Tampa.
Mike Evans has already put it out there that he's willing to restructure his deal, save some money.
Did you see the
help
interview?
team.
The interview with, I think it was with him, where Gronk crashed it.
Oh yeah,
And was like,
you need to get
"Go,
turned up.
Let's get turned up. Let's go. Get that done." He's like, "I know. I'm trying to get done. Like I'm trying to experience this."
Typical Gronk.
The best is Tom Brady saying, "Hey, Gronk, give him the wink."
Yeah.
What's up, baby? See you later.
I
Was
see
it
that.
me? Was it me, or did Brady look like he was going to kiss everybody that was in front of him?
So did his wife. Did you see Giselle run on the field and she's hugging and kissing babies and just she was all over the place. It was great. But listen, it wasn't just us who were not entertained by this game. It wasn't us that just didn't have any interest in watching this game. This was the lowest rated Super Bowl since 2007.
Am I the only one that liked that Super Bowl? I watched every second of it. And I was
I
smiling.
watched
I
it,
did
but I
watch
did not
it.
like it.
I was smiling. Man,
Because you made money off of it.
my money was made after they won the NFC Championship game. Once Brady made the Super Bowl, I had already made my $400 because it was just a no-brainer.
392.
Yeah, $392. I'm sorry.
$8.
So
You owe him $8 now.
But
I
I missed out on some money here because I looked at my wife before the game and I said, I'm just looking forward to watching Tom Brady. And he's one of those guys like Aaron Rodgers that's good enough just to make his friends better. And I said, I bet you that Antonio Brown and Gronk score in this because that's who Brady wants to score. And what do we got? 2 for Gronk, 1 for AB. I'm an idiot, didn't put any money on it, and it would have been huge.
You know what you should have? You know what you should have put some money on? You should have been like the guy that put the money on the fact that Mahomes would throw 0 TDs in this game.
$45,000 win.
Yeah, he put in $3,000 and walked away with 48 grand.
I would never call that.
Never in my life would I put money on that. I wouldn't have.
That's the difference, though, is like that guy, he's probably, we don't know who he is. Guy's probably a millionaire.
Oh yeah, $45,000 to drop in the bucket.
Like that would be like us putting like $300 or $30
Right,
on that.
I
that
still wouldn't.
situation.
I still wouldn't put $30 on that bet because I know I'd be just throwing $30 away. There's no way that hits. I wouldn't do it.
Oh no, I put it on dog coins. What do I know?
So Alex chimes in and said Shaq will get paid big money and showed everyone that pass rushers will be a premium this year in free agency. And I agree with you on that. And that's why I think that Ravens are going to have a tough time figuring out what to do with that pass rush situation. I know Chibs had said earlier that he wants to keep Yannick, he wants to keep Tyus. I think if you do that, it handicaps you from being able to do anything else. And we've seen this show already. We've seen what this defense looks like, and we know that we need some extra help on the offense. We don't want to be another one-win team in the playoffs or a one-and-done type team. We want to get to the next level. You got to put protection around Lamar. You got to get Lamar another target. I think that's better for them to be spending money on that.
But you also can't give up what you have on defense, right?
No,
defense,
I get that.
We literally just saw defense wins championships. Right. So that's what it comes down to. So
Nick says, when is Brady retiring? At this point, did you watch the game? He looked like he could play another 5 years and be fine.
Well, you called it next year they're winning the Super Bowl.
I guess. I didn't think they'd win this game, but you know what? I do think that Tom Brady and the crew will be back next year.
If they can find a way to keep the core of that team back next year, oh my God, can you imagine how well they're going to be clicking next year?
I can't find a good way to wear 7 rings, but I can find a real good way to wear 8. It looks nice. You wear 8 rings.
I think he's going for 2 handfuls. I think he's going for a full 10. I can see this guy playing until his late 40s. Late 40s.
Yeah, there's the
you take it off the thumb and we wear 8. That's what we do. No thumbs. No thumbs.
Yeah.
Get us 8 going.
I don't know why he didn't just go 4 and 3, but it is what it is.
Because he wants 10.
So let's move over to the rumor mill, right? So this is something, the NFL rumor mill. We didn't kind of hit on it last week, but I think there's some things that we do have to hit on this week.
Yeah.
Stafford traded to the Rams for Goff, and my question is I think it's one-sided personally. Who benefits from this trade the most?
The Rams. 100% it's the Rams. The Rams are in a win-now mode. And for all those fans out there that don't believe in Matt Stafford, well, you haven't been paying attention. Matt Stafford has had 0 protection his entire career.
Why do you think he got hurt?
Yeah. Outside of Megatron, he hasn't really had that many
Congrats
good
on the
targets.
Hall of Fame, by the way.
Right, you're right. He hasn't had good targets in his day. I think Matt Stafford is an offensive line away from being in the MVP type running. I think he can be that type of quarterback. You put him in a system with Sean McVay, with a good offensive line, with good wide receiver targets out there, I think Matt Stafford can be.
Well, and they get rid of somebody that they clearly didn't want, right? Goff even said the moving on feeling was mutual. Like he was done with them. Something was going on there, whether it was disagreements with McVay, whatever it may have been.
Disagreements with McVay's girlfriend, I think.
They're more like
both had interest in McVay's girlfriend.
But the Rams gave up three draft picks. They gave up in 2021, they gave up a 3rd rounder, and 2022 and 2023, they gave up both their 1st rounders.
Rams just don't give a shit about 1st round picks, apparently.
No, but so there was an interesting statement this week that it actually had me scratching my head with the weapons that the Rams do have, and if they have a quarterback that's able to produce, and if they can shore up the offensive line a little bit more than what it is now. Dan Orlovsky says he expects Stafford to have a Rodgers-type season.
I'm saying he can be in the MVP conversation. I'm not going to say he's going to have an Aaron Rodgers-type year, but I definitely think
you think he's going to be much improved.
100% he is, and I think the Rams are going to be a much better team.
Until he gets hurt in like week 9. It's starting to become inevitable. Every year, the guy's got a broken back
because he's
had
nobody
no protection.
So what's going to happen with the Rams line when Whitworth leaves? He's going to retire soon enough.
I said they need to shore up that line a little bit more. I agree.
Like he went to Indianapolis with that fucking offensive line.
Yeah, well, it's true.
He's not going from he's going from like the 30th offensive line to the 20th.
So this next rumor mill, I'm just going to stay out of this because you guys don't value anything I have to say on this. Where do you think Deshaun Watson's going to go, and what's it going to cost?
It's going to be a backup.
Nowhere.
No, I think he gets traded. I do think he gets traded. Where? I don't know. Could he end up with the Jets? Maybe. Because, I mean, if the Jets are going all in, they've got a bunch of cap space, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to get Trevor Lawrence. Are they sold on the kid from Ohio State? Can't think of his name right now.
Fields.
Are they sold on Fields being the quarterback of their future? I don't know. Deshaun Watson is a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the right system.
Or backup.
Or backup, according to Scott. He's a great quarterback.
He couldn't get anywhere with Hopkins.
He is a franchise changer. That was a terrible franchise, and I know he'd be going to another terrible franchise in the Jets. But I think the Jets would be willing to overpay and give a lot of draft capital to get.
The only thing that comes into this is the new GM Nick Cesario is saying that they have absolutely no interest in trading him. He will be on this team, but I agree with what I heard Dominique Foxworth say on ESPN. He basically said, like, this is a lose-lose for the Texans. Either way, because if you keep him,
you got a disgruntled player.
You got a disgruntled player who's not going to give you 100%.
So J.J. Watts.
And what?
J.J. Watts, too, once out.
Yeah, and J.J. will probably have an issue. It's just not there. If they trade him, they're losing somebody that you guys value. I don't see it because, again, he can't finish drives. He couldn't do it with DeAndre Hopkins. He couldn't do it last year. You know, he put up all the numbers, but you couldn't finish drives. You couldn't put your team in a touchdown situation. I get there's other factors. I get it. But overall, Watson's whole approach to everything in this, I'm telling you right now, it's turning teams off.
Hey, you guys remember when Scott said he was going to stay out of this because we didn't respect his opinion?
Yeah, well, I don't care.
Go ahead, Drew.
Go ahead. You want to go toe-to-toe? Let's go.
I don't know if I
Let's go.
I'm old enough to remember when Scott said he wasn't doing this.
Put it on the couch.
So at what point are we going to put Lamar Jackson in that same camp on our own team?
Lamar Jackson's made it to the playoffs. Well, how many playoffs has Deshaun Watson made it to?
Same
Same fucking amount. Until this year,
he made it to the playoffs this year?
Amount. They won the fucking division last year.
They lost to the Chiefs last year.
They lost to the Chiefs because they collapsed. Deshaun Watson didn't fucking collapse. That fucking defense collapsed.
Yeah. This team, the Texans.
That defense has fucking keeps going down every goddamn year. And J.J. Watt's fucking miracle. When he was actually playing games, they were okay defensively. And then he got fucking hurt, and he stayed hurt. So that defense has always underperformed. You keep saying about Watson, I just think you want to stick with the argument that you accidentally backed yourself into and you can't get back into.
No, if Scott's a GM of the Jets, he's like calling them like, look, I got four picks for you for Deshaun Watson because he's a backup to Darnold. I'll
give you a third and a fourth rounder for him.
No, I'm going with the numbers. The numbers say he can't finish drives.
He doesn't have a running back. He doesn't have a tight end. He has wide receivers. So you get to the 20
but you
and then
make
you're
the
done.
argument that he has the most passing yards out of anybody in the league. You can't make that argument. And no, you can't make the argument that the guy has the most passing yards and he's this great quarterback, but he can't finish. He cannot put
literally
points on the board.
Passing is.
Hey, I got a question. Is Matthew Stafford a backup quarterback?
He's controlling what he can control. He can't control how the defense
Is Matthew
plays.
Stafford a backup
Deshaun
quarterback?
Watson has a better line than Matthew Stafford ever had.
Just now starting to get it, and it still isn't good. Tunsil's the only good option.
Deshaun Watson isn't losing games for the Texans.
He's not throwing interceptions.
The defense is losing games for the Texans.
But he's also not scoring all the touchdowns to compete.
We don't either.
I still just think,
I think it's bad coaching,
I
too.
still just think if you're in that camp that doesn't want to believe in Watson, you can't believe in Lamar.
Offensively, they've had
I hope he goes to a
zero
different team.
running games since Arian Foster. Who's the last running back?
And that wasn't
good?
Watson around.
Right, and that was before Watson. Right, that's what I'm saying. They haven't had a running game.
Right?
They haven't had a running game.
Blue had flashes in the pans, but that was poor use of.
They haven't had a running game. They've had an absolute listen.
He was a backup running back.
Listen to me. They haven't had a running back at all.
J.K. Dobbins.
Their defense has been awful and it's gotten worse year in and year out. But Watson has still gotten them to the playoffs every year until they pulled their number one wide receiver away from him.
And
the defense got even worse.
And they probably still would have made the playoffs if they didn't then lose their second wide receiver to drugs.
I think your frustration is pointed in the wrong direction. Your frustration should be pointed at the Texans' organizational decisions more so than it is singularly at Watson, because Watson isn't losing these games. It's the Texans. It's Brian
and the head coach,
or whatever his name is.
And we're starting to see that now.
He was the GM too.
Yeah, the Texans again organizationally made that stupid decision.
There's the problem. It's your ownership.
Yeah.
You had an owner that was old. He was an old fuddy-duddy. He passed away. And now it's the son, and the son is worse, and he's a religious nut on top of it. So he hired a football operations guy from the almighty Patriots.
I wish we had a Drew-only camera so we could exclude ourselves from this conversation.
I don't look.
One-on-one battle.
I've been building up on this Watson thing, and this is the opportunity.
Ryan,
go for it. Come on, go for it.
Drew and Scott.
You had him bring in this football guy that Bill Belichick has said that guy is not a football guy. He was a goddamn chaplain for them, for crying out loud. So then he came in, fired the GM. You forced Bill O'Brien to be the GM, and then he made dumb decisions, but at the same time, because he was underqualified and should have never been the GM, because you shouldn't have brought in a guy who's high and mighty and firing people left and right for no reason.
Right.
Deshaun Watson's not firing the PR lady that everyone loved. He's not firing the equipment manager that everyone seems to love. It's management. It's nothing to do with
Deshaun Watson has done everything right for that organization. Yes. He's been great in the community. He's been great from a marketability standpoint, and he's been great on the field. Again, the wins and losses do not fall.
But also, I blame him as
Deshaun Watson.
Because why would you sign a contract?
Any quarterback should sign a contract right now.
Also, like one of the other things, and now they're starting to retool. They obviously spent all those draft picks on getting Laramie Tunsil there to help protect Watson White, which is going to help him. But we saw in this Super Bowl a prime example of how important the offensive line is. Look how terrible Pat Mahomes looked in that Super Bowl with having one of his starting offensive linemen out there, right? He's a totally different quarterback at that point. Deshaun Watson needs a fresh start somewhere else. If that's the Jets, I pray for him that works out. But I think Deshaun Watson can be an absolute top 5 quarterback in this league. Nick
says, how about him going to Jacksonville?
No, they're not. Jacksonville, I think, is 100% sold on Trevor Lawrence. That is also what sold Urban Meyer on the job in Jacksonville. I think everything is premeditated for Jacksonville.
It's an undercover deal that's going to go with the Patriots.
No, they don't have.
Who?
Deshaun Watson.
I think it's an undercover sleeper. No one thought they would sign Cam Newton for the league minimum. Just get him there, but they can find a way to get him up there.
I don't know if they have enough draft capital, but
they got it.
Yeah. All right, so another thing that we gotta put out there, we can talk about Aaron Rodgers. We talked a little bit about him.
Yeah.
He is going to be staying in Green Bay because there's a lot of rumors out there going around that maybe the Green Bay was looking to move on from Aaron Rodgers.
Well, there was rumors that the Rams, before the trade for Stafford, that the Rams were interested in.
Every team would be interested in Aaron Rodgers. Every team would see that as an upgrade. But yeah. They went public and said that was never going to happen. He was also named, obviously, the league MVP on Friday. That was inevitable. We all knew that was coming.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, I touched a little bit on this on the After Hours show last week. There were some texts leaked about 2 weeks ago that still haven't found out for sure if these were true texts, if these were real, if these were fabricated.
Nothing's come out against it. Let's just say that.
But it was from the best friend of Andrew Luck's wife talking about Andrew having a meeting with Jimmy from the Colts and that he misses football and he wants to get back into football. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but if Andrew Luck wants to get back into the football and he wants to go back to the Indianapolis Colts, now be the fucking perfect time for him to do that. They've got the best offensive line that they've ever had there, which has been Andrew Luck's problem his entire career, is that he had no protection. They've got very good young running backs there. They've got a great defense. Andrew Luck could make this team an instant Super Bowl contender, in my opinion, if he comes back.
Do you think Luck just saw what Philip Rivers could do with him and went, I could do
That's
better.
what I mean. We saw what Phillip Rivers was able to do. You put Andrew Luck back in that
I
system.
could do better.
I think he can. I could absolutely think that he
Think
can
he's
make
truly
them a
gonna?
Super
You think
Bowl
he's
contender.
truly gonna make a comeback?
I don't believe these texts. I think that if this was something that was in the works, this would have already been public knowledge by now, because Indianapolis is in a position where they've got to make a move, and they got to make a move fast, figuring out who their quarterback in the future is going to be, and they would want that reassurance now.
All right. No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning. Fred
All right,
switching
Scott.
it up there with the gang sign there.
I liked the double
Well,
gang
no.
sign. It's better.
A little West Coast there with the gang sign.
So I was never a gang member. It's time for the 2-minute warning. Who wrote the questions this week?
Hey, it's time for the couch to shine. Let's go, boys.
All right, couch guys. What do we got? Give me the first one.
Might as well keep this going. Who's the best backup quarterback of all time?
All right, Scott.
Sweet on Ryan. Just to piss Fred off, Tim. No, we're not going to do it. Not going to do it. I think he proved it this year. Ryan Fitzpatrick. He everywhere he goes, he helps the man behind him or the man in front of him develop. He's able to come in and execute. I think it's there. There's a few other guys I think come to mind, but I think he's the guy that true backup quarterback. It's him.
Are we talking about somebody who was a backup quarterback their entire career, or somebody who was a backup quarterback at one point? Because I'm going to pull a wild card here. I think the best backup quarterback of all time was Randall Cunningham when he was backing up in Minnesota. When he came in and replaced for Dante Culpepper, they went on another level offensively. Even though Dante Culpepper played great there in Minnesota, they didn't miss a beat with Randall Cunningham down there. I thought he played great.
You know who else did that? Nick Foles.
And Aaron Rodgers is the backup quarterback.
And the next question is, which one guy of the Ravens would you sign, and which one would you not sign?
If I'm gonna sign somebody, honestly, I'm signing Orlando Brown Jr. I'm figuring out a way to make that work. I think that offensive line needs some security there. You lose him, I think it's a problem. And the guy I'm not signing, easy, Judon. Not signing him.
So you're talking about current Ravens?
Yeah.
All right, current Ravens, I agree with you. I think we saw the importance of offensive line. I'm doing everything I can to put all my chips in the table on Orlando Brown Jr. and keeping him here in Baltimore, even if that means paying him left tackle money to keep him here.
Pay him left tackle for a short period of time.
Doesn't have to be top 5 left tackle money. I don't think he's earned that yet. He's only over there for a small sample size, but I'll pay him left tackle money to keep him here. And a guy that I'm not going to sign, I'm not signing Yannick. As much as Chibs tried to sell me on that, just don't think it's worth the money. All right, Scott, good show. Very long show. Christ, it's 10 o'clock. Get me out of here. After hours going to be very short.
Yes, it is.
Like, hi and bye.
No Watson talking the after hours.
I made my point.
We want to thank all of you guys for tuning in each week. Make sure you go check out our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, check out all of the episodes. You guys putting out a new Shell and Tell episode here soon?
Ryan's working another solo endeavor right now. He's got some interviews lined up that he's working on. We're not going to release the names yet, but he is working on some stuff.
Got your mic figured out this time?
I'm working on it.
Eventually will be his own show at some point.
All right.
Seems to be going that direction.
Nope, never getting rid of Fred. He's my bread and butter.
There you go. Make sure let the tears flow in the after hours. Jesus. Make sure you guys check out the Show and Tell episodes, all of our episodes for the show as well. Make sure you also check us out on Big Play and birdlandsports.com. Obviously, you can get us on social media at Birdland BS is how you find us, at Scott BLBS, at Fred BLBS. Comment, like, follow, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to help us grow, do it. If you listen to the audio version of the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen, go give us a like, go give us a review, and make sure you're tuning in each week for the show. For Fred, myself, the peanut gallery over here, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya. It's time for the after party.
/ call for alcohol.
It's time to go night-night. Bye-bye, guys. No. We'll stick around for like 5 minutes. Hey,
Yeah.
fun show. Again, appreciate Chibs for coming on and talking Ravens with us. We're in that part of the off season where we kind of recycle topics and we keep beating a fucking dead horse. So it's nice to get another.
It's only get worse as the offseason goes on.
Nice to have another brain and another mind.
So let's just cover these last two comments.
Yeah,
we got. How about luck to the Redskins?
Redskins need a fucking quarterback, right? Worse
They're called
than
the
anything.
football team.
Yeah, well, he said
yeah,
Redskins,
goddamn.
a.k.a. Washington. What the fucks?
Yeah,
Actually, he
I'm
said.
gonna keep calling them Redskins until they decide on a
By the way,
goddamn name.
that was one of the edits I had to make on the last Show and Tell show. I had to go back and be like, Redskins, and like snap it into where or the opposite.
Washington football team.
Washington football team in the amount of Redskins. That was a little bit difficult.
And to answer that question, does Washington football team want Andrew Luck? 100%. Does Andrew Luck want the Washington football team?
Oh, no.
0%. If I'm Andrew Luck, I hold all the chips, right? If I'm coming back, it's going to be with the team that I want it to be with, and it's going to be the team that I built my legacy with, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. They just, again, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league, which is going to be a big factor in his decision if he wants to come back. A lot of the reason that he didn't want to play anymore was because he was getting beat the fuck up and he just didn't enjoy the game anymore. It wasn't for what it was, wasn't what it was originally for him. And he wanted to get back to family life. I think if he wasn't getting beat up so much, Andrew Luck would have never early retired.
No, never would have happened.
So I think if he comes back, it's going to be to the Colts.
It's the injury. He's going to come back. He's going to finish his career as a Colt.
If he comes back.
I truly think he will.
I don't think so.
All right, I'm going to start this next one. I got something to say about this one. This goes back to the change we just saw where we talked about they can't do holdouts anymore. That Lev Bell holdout.
Read the question, remember, for the audio podcast.
Watson will sadly remain in Houston. The only way he can get out is retirement, I feel. This is where I disagree. This is where me and Scott had this disagreement that holdouts can be done in different ways. And that holdouts like that Lev Bell just did are almost non-existent because they're so punitive financially it's not going to happen. But a holdout that Watson could pull off is he goes out there, shows up to practice, shows up to the game,
Goes through
and
the
takes a
motions.
knee every time they snap him the ball until they bench
So
him.
here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say. Here's the out in that contract for the Houstons. He pulls that shit. It's conduct detrimental to the team.
And he would get fired, and they'd void the contract, and somebody else would pay him $1 billion to play quarterback.
Well, yes.
back
It would be fine. You'd be a free agent. He'd be fine with being a free agent right now. That's the way out
It's
of this.
essentially an Earl Thomas situation where then he gets released, he becomes a free agent, another team can sign him, and then the whoever that team signs him, whatever that money is, then the team gets off of that money.
My thing is that he's
Which is
one
a
of-
win, which becomes a win for the Texans.
No,
They
I
don't
know.
have to pay him for that.
I agree
He's
with that.
one of like 5 players that
The
can pull this off.
the non-win on that though is they don't get any draft capital. If they trade him now, at least they get something for him. Somebody takes the contract and they get great value. Deshaun Watson is not going to come cheap. If it took what it took to get Matt Stafford, it's going to be more than double that to get
Is somebody
going
to be willing to give up
I'm
that
just
much?
I'm just saying he's one of
100%.
5 players that could do this and not be the villain because number 1, he is who he is. He's been a great character guy from the beginning. Number 2, part of why he feels this way about the program is this like racial injustice thing and his thing with Eric Bieniemy and stuff. So him taking a knee with the ball on the field is just a step up
I
from.
agree with that to a degree, though. They did bring in David Culley as their new head coach, who is also African
I know, but that was not. It was like a pacifist move after the fact, and it wasn't.
I don't think
what
it
part of
was.
this.
The sticks were already broken on that. I think they were trying to appease, and they were completely lost on the whole concept of what he was going for.
Yeah,
You're just trying to appease somebody at that point. Then you're
'Cause that's
you're
almost-
taunting me like I'm
yeah.
a child. Fuck that.
So to me, it's almost worse.
And I'm going to stick with my
But
shit.
here's what I'm going to say to you.
talk about Watson again.
This is a fucking business, right? It's a fucking business. You don't do shit to appease people in a business,
But-
you do things to make your business better.
But it happens, and
Yes.
appeasing your star fucking quarterback is making your team better.
And
I'm sorry,
he could-
backup quarterback.
He could be extra offended because not only did you ignore his "I want Eric Bieniemy," you then said, "Oh, he just wants a black guy and hires a black guy," and
you-
that is 10 times worse than hiring a white dude in that situation.
You made it
if that's
even
what
worse.
you had decided, what if that's what was
That's a
stated
lot
or
of,
felt.
That's a lot of what ifs.
So,
I know it is,
That's a
but I'm
lot.
saying he's obviously angry and bitter about this situation. So something's going down where it's not okay.
The
then.
problem with it, I think, in his frustration was the lack of communication. They told
It would be a
Deshaun
big
Watson
process.
he would be a part of the entire process, and they were making decisions
No.
without
Hold on.
involving
I'm
him.
gonna correct you there for a second because they didn't say he would be.
correct.
No, they never said he would be a part of the process. They said they would take his opinion into account.
But they never made it part of his opinion. They never
They did. He said, "I want Eric Bieniemy." They said, "We don't want him." For whatever
And then
reason,
never-
you
you don't
even just
continue
made
the
an argument
conversation?
when Chibs was on. You even made the argument. We even talked about this that maybe there could be more to the story about the fact that it could be something that is. I think maybe it was Brian that said it. That it could be more Andy Reid than it is
we've
Bieniemy.
said that. We've said that for a while.
Right.
We don't know what the success of the Chiefs offense you can lay your hat on. Is it Eric Bieniemy? Is it Andy Reid? Is it a combination of the two? We don't know. But any of the players that talk about him as a man, that talk about him as a coach, forget the offensive guru, whether that's the wild card that's not a factor. But everything else, he's a player's coach. Everybody else likes him. Anybody else has played for him has said that he deserves an opportunity.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
And the people
What
that
I'm-
are in the freaking trenches with him
What
are
I'm
the
saying
ones that
is
know
they
best.
as an organization said we will take your opinion into consideration. They never said that's what I think the media has blown out of proportion with this. There was, if it was ever said, it's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard from a business standpoint. I
There's
would
a lot
never.
of
Is it?
dumb
It's your.
business
It's
things.
that's true. But is it though to involve your franchise player? Is it to involve your franchise player in
There's a
decisions
difference.
like
There's
that?
a difference between involving him and letting him make the decision. He was unhappy with their decision.
Everything that he said is that he wasn't involved as he was supposed to be, as he was told he
according
would.
to
He
him,
was led
he
to
found-
believe that he'd be part of the process.
And he found out
So
about
what is
David
part-
Culley
but
the
what
same
is
time
part
we
of the-
did.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. What is part of the process looks like?
Meaning
Look
he
like?
didn't even
None of
fucking
us-
know Cesario was going to fucking come in. They blindsided him with that. There was no involvement with him whatsoever. Oh, yeah, okay, Deshaun. Well, our exit interview, yeah, we'll involve you. And 3 weeks later, the dumbass owner's doing whatever the
You're
fuck he wants.
talking about,
Scott.
you're talking about the
He
GM.
hates Watson.
Scott,
No,
That's-
hold on.
I'm saying
No,
he's
I'm
just
making
sticking
a valid argument here, and if you guys say this is invalid, then I'm
I'm not saying-
done
I'm
with
not
this
saying
show.
it's
But
invalid.
no, hear me out for a
Done with
second.
the
Hear me
show.
out. No,
Hey,
I'm
wait,
legit
Fred,
done with this show.
Fred,
We're talking
Fred,
about
Fred,
you wanted this to
I will.
happen.
I will. Just think about this too.
Just
I will.
Let me finish my statement, and then I'll hear you out. You're talking about the GM. You're telling me Eric Bieniemy was ready to make the jump from offensive coordinator to GM. No. Shut the fuck up about
Nobody
that.
said that.
No one said that!
But you're bringing up
so loud.
You're bringing up the fact. You're bringing up the fact.
And I'm sorry, but no one said. I never once came out. I don't like the enemy. I don't think he's any good of a coach, and I think it is all Andy Reid. And I'll stop right there. I never said that Bieniemy should be the GM. I don't think any head coach should be the GM or baseball operations or anything of that. We've seen that go
But you
down.
just brought up the fact
agree
that
with
he was upset about not being involved in the Cesario comment. They said when it comes to head coach, we'll discuss with you.
When it came
and then
to
it came out
searches-
Cesario, and then Watson got upset. Don't call about like you weren't involved in the situation. This is the GM. They actually
And
made
then
the
they
decision
hired
and said,
Culley without ever telling him.
because he
We
had already
found-
made a fucking stink about Nick Cesario.
And then that goes with his point of saying they just let's just hire a black guy and that'll make
Nope.
everything better.
Apparently, he was
again-
getting.
And you know
he
what?
was in that organization.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that did happen. But he made the stink after they made the GM decision. They made the GM decision, and he didn't agree with that. But he was talking about Bieniemy the whole time.
I think you guys are focusing too much on one thing. This is a cumulative. That was the final straw that broke the back. You took his number one target away from him and got
For pennies.
forgot nothing for it, right? So there's been other things that have happened.
So then be
along
mad at
the
Bill
way.
O'Brien.
It's
That's
all
what-
of that.
But that
It's
was what I was saying earlier.
Well, apparently,
They forced that on Bill
Culley was
O'Brien.
part
That
of
was the
Houston at one
owner.
point.
I think in his mind, he realized the shit show that is Houston. And anybody that knows anything about football will tell you
Yes.
the Houston Texans are a shit show of an organization. And I think he
Are
had
they
his
up there
fill
with
of
the
it.
Jets?
He had his fill of it. I think the final straw was this coaching decision. Maybe it was. Maybe he did have in his back of his mind. We'll never know this. We can argue both sides of it. Maybe in the back of his mind was, it's Eric Bieniemy or I'm out. And the minute they made that decision that they weren't going Bieniemy and they went with whoever it was, didn't matter if he was white, black, yellow, purple, didn't matter. It wasn't Eric Bieniemy. Then I want out.
He got upset. That's my point, though. You're talking about that, and he got upset after the Cesario announcement. It wasn't they had made the head coach announcement. They made the GM announcement.
Now,
and you're talking. No, Eric Bieniemy was never in line for a GM conversation.
They had already ruled him out as part of it.
Because he's not a GM. He's not GM
But
material
he was ruled
yet.
out of the head coach conversation.
Yeah, we're talking about head coach.
No, but my whole point is everybody's focusing on, oh, he was unhappy because they didn't get Bieniemy. He
As a
expressed
coach.
Now,
but he expressed his unhappiness with the Houston, Texas organization when they made the decision on GM, not on head coach. They had made their decision on GM, and they had made their decision
on head coach. They had made their decision on GM, and then they went public with an announcement on to who they were interviewing. Neither one of those guys were Eric Bieniemy. So who knows what kind of backdoor conversations that they had, and they said, sorry, Eric Bieniemy's not on our radar. We don't think he's qualified. These are the two guys that we're bringing in, David Culley, and I can't remember who the other guy was. They brought in two guys. They interviewed him, and then they ended up going with David Culley. I think, again, there's a lot of things, a lot of pieces to the story that we don't know.
We want the flies.
We'll never know. At the end of the day, Deshaun Watson doesn't come across to me as one of those guys that's, the typical, like, he doesn't come across to me as a Le'Veon Bell.
No.
He doesn't come across to me as that kind of guy. He comes across as a guy who is frustrated with a shit-ran organization, has had his final say in everything that he wants to say, and now he wants out.
But how much of that how much of that was Bill O'Brien? Right,
a good portion of it was.
But then shut the fuck up.
But your ownership is the one that allowed that to go on for so long.
I understand that.
That ownership didn't change.
But they were to your all's point. 2 years ago they were winning, weren't they?
2 years ago they were competitive.
And who was the GM and who was the manager? I'm trying to get you guys to see.
They were competitive because of Deshaun Watson.
can I correct you a little bit?
Go ahead.
Without being yelled at.
No, you're going to get yelled at. It's past that point.
Calmly. You were talking about 2 years ago. 2 years ago in 2019, that's when he fired the GM, and then they pretty much, it was open for 2018. 2018.
I was saying
2018. It was open for a whole year, and they weren't bringing anybody in. Oh, let's just give it to Bill O'Brien, and that's where I was saying, like, Bill O'Brien.
We can save $6 million. Don't buy a GM.
Thank you. He was well underqualified to be a GM and should have never been a GM coach. But I'm not trying to give him a pass, but at the same time, that still comes to ownership and how they manage teams. And let's look at football. Ownership, if you have a shit ownership, you're going to stay in the fucking bottom. Jacksonville, New York Jets.
Well, Jacksonville's trying to make a change.
Jacksonville did make a run for a little bit.
Team.
Washington football, like your ownership is going to, if you
Jerry Jones
Dallas Cowboys.
If your ownership's going to keep making dumb decisions,
But hold on,
out of it.
That's a bad example because
Why?
Because Jerry Jones makes the fucking GM decisions as it is.
That's what we're talking about. He
that's what
needs
we're talking about.
GM.
We're saying
He's a bad GM.
Ownership you'll never get out of the gutter if you have bad ownership.
The whole coach GM thing needs to go away.
The only way that it worked was Belichick. And that was it. He was the diamond in the rough, and that's arguable.
Even that's falling apart because he can't draft a wide receiver.
Again,
his draft
Belichick.
select is
I'm not trying to take a whole lot away from him, but we saw how much of Belichick was Brady, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot
can be made up for somebody like him.
It doesn't really. It's
no, you're fine.
Kind of I won't go down a rabbit hole. You're also kind of seeing it now a little bit, and to a very small extent, Russell Wilson at least saying
Publicly that he's tired of getting hit.
So fucking tired of being hit.
Yeah.
Like when like Schottenheimer left, he didn't. You're seeing these star players.
They have bigger issues because right now they only have ownership.
Well, that too. But my point being.
No, I'm being for real. Like, because the owner died and they're like settling through, like the daughter or something is like handling it.
That's Denver.
No, it's
Denver too.
It's Seattle. They were talking about the other day where Russell's tired of it, but is Pete Carroll's going to stay? Is he going to go? But they said by next year they'll have a new owner apparently.
Good, Drew.
My point of it being, okay, whether Houston and Watson are on the same page, whether Wilson or Seattle are on the same page, isn't a little bit refreshing to see that you're paying these quarterbacks a shitload of money, and at least they care enough to want to give input.
I don't disagree with you, but here's what my thing is.
I mean, it could be Joe Flacco.
Here's what my thing is. They're making a decision. I'm not saying that Cesario and David Culley are the answer in Texas. I'm not saying that by any means. But do you not at least give them a fucking shot? It's you're throwing a whiny temper tantrum because it's not the guy that you want.
He took it the nicest ways possible, though.
He's not whining. He's just
I would say
he said, I want to trade, and basically saying I'm not going to play if I don't get traded.
He never said that he wasn't going to play. He just said he's upset right now.
He wants out. He wants out.
Orlando
he
Browns
wants a
was
fresh
whinier.
start.
I'm not going to lie.
And I think whiny. I don't think it was whiny. I think it was just
And Orlando Brown didn't come out and say, trade me, I want to be a left tackle.
Oh, he just saw the
Not
money.
It's fully built that way.
But the Russell Wilson thing, I think, as far as him coming out saying, oh, I don't want to get hit anymore, funny that comes out right after a left tackle like Orlando Brown says, I want to be traded.
You're seeing the players take control of this league. The NFL is going to be the NBA in a couple of years, where the players have majority of control in what happens in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
As
it's
we see how
been
that's working
true.
out in
It's
the
been
NBA.
that way for a while. It just hasn't been so
on
public.
you guys or anybody that wants to take. Do you think Patrick Queen got snubbed on defensive player?
No, not at all.
I think he can complain all he wants.
I think Patrick Queen
he had too much of an up and down year.
Statistically had a good year. There were some splash plays that he made that were good statistic plays. He's got a lot of forced fumbles. He had the interception. He had a lot of tackles.
Yeah, a lot of tackles.
He had a lot of tackles because he started all 16 games. He was out there the entire season. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Patrick Queen. Chase Young 100% deserved that
feel
award.
like he
had the biggest impact on his team, in my opinion. But Patrick Queen is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Was he impactful? Yes. Was he Defensive Player of the Year impactful?
No, rookie.
Nope. Rookie player. Rookie defensive player. I don't care. To your point, Chase Young.
TJ Watt got robbed, though.
Yeah, TJ Watt did get robbed.
So it's about
But in fairness, Aaron Donald gets tripled and quadrupled teamed and still puts up the production. I get it. TJ Watt's a great player, and he put up better stats. If you just look at him side by side, which JJ Watt did, he put the stats up there, and it was landslide TJ over Aaron Donald. But again, if you watch the tape, there is not a time on that field where Aaron Donald doesn't have to account for at least two or three
guys, exactly.
And a little bit of TJ Watt might have been along the lines of that 11-game winning streak, too.
Right.
It was kind of once he lost Bud Dupree and White, like he kind of was.
Yeah.
Teams
could then center on him.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Who was opposite Darnold?
Donald, Michael Brocker.
Rockers.
Right, but didn't put up that much numbers, right?
Former Raven, Michael Brockers.
Yeah.
He played pretty decent.
He played pretty decent
because he had three people blocking the other guy.
Right, I was gonna say because then you look at TJ Watt versus Bud Dupree. They were both getting double teamed, right? They're both getting double teamed, and that's kind of Fred's point is that there was so much more involved with Aaron Donald, and he put up the numbers that he did.
No disrespect,
double and triple teams.
Again, no disrespect.
They're
to Patrick
both top
Queen,
players.
no disrespect to TJ Watt. Both of those guys are great, but I think respectively, the guys that won the awards deserved it. It's just my opinion.
Hey, by the way, Kurt Warner's your answer for the best backup of all time.
Again, I don't know.
But he was
my problem with
if he goes by my logic, then I can understand.
Yeah, Fred's
that.
answer ruined
when
the
you
question
started the career of backup quarterbacks.
What all-pro quarterback was once a backup is how you guys want to answer this question.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to think of somebody, and the only other guy I could think of was Nick Foles, and I'm like, I don't want to go that route. I want to go something
If you
different.
want to go backup, you can go Steve Young then.
Foles, that still plays it.
All right, we've gone on the after hours long, too long.
Oh my God.
Night. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Stay on any longer. It's going to be Tuesday again. Christ. See you guys.